Muito bom dia, pessoal. Sejam todos bem-vindos. Hoje é mais uma transmissão em nosso canal WillPTV, 24 de setembro de 2023, 10h55 da manhã, pelo horário de Brasília. E hoje então vamos acompanhar este momento histórico, né? Mais uma vez aqui no nosso canal, depois de 7 anos e 2 semanas de missão, né? A sonda Osiris então volta à Terra com as amostras do asteroide Bennu. Lembrando então que o pouso está programado para acontecer aí em Utah por volta das 11 horas e 55 minutos, né, para o horário de Brasília. E nesse momento, a cápsula da sonda Bennu, né, segue em viagem até a atmosfera da Terra, onde então a sua trajetória de descida, né, da atmosfera deve demorar por torno aí de 13 minutos e logo depois, então, teremos o seu pouso em Utah, no estado de Utah, nos Estados Unidos. Então, lembrando que a Bennu, né, teve seu começo aí há 7 anos atrás, né, a sonda Osiris, né, teve sua trajetória aí há 7 anos atrás e hoje, então, retornando à Terra, trazendo, então, as amostras do asteroide. E hoje de madrugada, quem acompanhou, né, tivemos aí mais uma missão Starlink, né, que foi realizada com sucesso aí pelo Falcon 9, né, com 22 satélites aí sendo então colocados em órbita com sucesso. Lembrando também que no dia 25, amanhã, teremos mais uma missão Starlink, a partir das 4h10 da manhã, no horário de Brasília, teremos então mais um lançamento com o Falcon 9, que dessa vez será lá na base de Vandenberg, na Califórnia. E no dia 27, vamos acompanhar o retorno da tripulação da MS-23, que vai sair então da Estação Espacial Internacional e terá o pouso também no Cazaquistão, tudo no mesmo dia, aí no dia 27. Estamos aguardando então as imagens lá da zona de pouso em Utah, nos Estados Unidos, né, onde vamos acompanhar aí o retorno da cápsula da sonda Osiris. Estamos aí só aguardando então o contato lá com as imagens locais de Utah, nos Estados Unidos. Onde vamos então acompanhar aí o retorno da cápsula da sonda Osiris aí com as amostras do asteroide Bennu. Então, para quem não conhece ainda o programa Osiris, né? O Osiris, então, em inglês é Origin Spectral Interpretation, Research Identification and Security Regolith Explorer, né? Então, ele é uma sonda aí que está trazendo amostras justamente para estudar mais a fundo, né, a parte então de composição aí dos asteroides, que ficam aí justamente no cinturão de asteroides, para a gente entender melhor aí como é o comportamento deles, como é que é o material deles e se há também alguma parte aí orgânica, né, também dentro desses asteroides. É para justamente então para fazer missões futuras aí para também de segurança, né, da Terra, né, para poder fazer então desvios aí desses asteroides. Por isso que essas missões até esses asteroides são importantes, né, justamente também para recolher as suas amostras. E aí já estamos ao vivo em Utah, nos Estados Unidos, aí no deserto então de Utah, onde vamos aí acompanhar o pouso da sonda, da cápsula da sonda Osiris. E aí um pouquinho da sonda da missão Osiris.
I like to call it the Daredevil spacecraft.
10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6.
O lançamento aí que aconteceu há 7 anos atrás.
2, 1. And liftoff of OSIRIS-REx. Its 7-year mission to boldly go to the asteroid Bennu and back.
Welcome and thank you for joining us live from the Army's Dugway Proving Ground in Dugway, Utah. This is special coverage of America's first asteroid sample return mission, OSIRIS-REx, as it arrives back to Earth after more than 7 years traveling in deep space.
Aí do Osiris, né? Lembrando que o pouso está programado para acontecer às 11 horas e 55 minutos.
He's a planetary geologist by training and also probably one of the most excited people around here today.
Lauren, literally,
vamos então acompanhar aí este momento histórico.
Well, I'm excited to share the stage with you today. We've got a lot to discuss and a huge adventure straight ahead. And for those joining at home, Jim and I will be taking your questions live throughout the show. You can send those our way by using the hashtag AskNASA on X, YouTube, and Twitch. And if you want to follow along,
estamos aí com problemas técnicos lá no áudio deles.
And check out NASA's Eyes on the Solar System, where you can view a complete 3D simulation and follow the OSIRIS-REx sample return capsule to the ground. And during the broadcast, you'll hear directly from the mission team, so listen very closely for those operational callouts. Before we get into the action,
11 horas e 2 minutos no horário de Brasília, né? Estamos aí ao vivo, né? Então, em Utah, nos Estados Unidos.
From bringing things on the moon back with crews to all robotics.
Faltam então aí 53 minutos para o pouso da cápsula então da sonda Osiris.
So OSIRIS-REx is an acronym for Origins, Spectral Interpretation, Identification, Security, Regolith Explorer.
E aí foram os momentos, né,
but the mission describes an audacious objective.
Há 7 anos atrás, né, do lançamento e também da chegada da sonda Osiris e do pouso aí no Bennu.
On September 8, 2016, the plucky probe took an extraordinary route through the solar system until it reached the asteroid Bennu. Then, after more than a year of mapping the surface in exquisite detail, OSIRIS-REx made a careful descent in October 2020 to collect a sample. 3 years later, we are here at Dugway Proving Ground in the deserts of northeast Utah, awaiting that capsule containing the sample, which experts
então,
tell
após
us
7 anos
is
de missão, a
essentially a time
sonda
capsule of the
Osiris, né,
ancient
retorna
solar
à
system.
Terra. E a cápsula nesse momento já foi liberada pela sonda. O pouso então está programado para acontecer daqui a 51 minutos, menos de 51 minutos.
We'll also hear from James Traley, who will
lá
be
no
tracking
deserto
mission
de
operations
Utah,
and bringing us
nos
real-time
Estados
updates. Essentially, our eyes and ears inside mission control, which sounds to me like a good place to jump into the story. James, good morning. How are we looking?
Da sonda Osiris então carrega amostras do asteroide Bennu.
Members involved in this mission. Just a little bit further north from us, about 4 hours ago in Waterton, Colorado, the team met to assess the readiness to release the SRC from the main OSIRIS-REx spacecraft. And I'm very happy to report that they gave the green light, they gave the go command officially to release the SRC from the OSIRIS-REx. Let's listen in on what that command sounded like.
E aí esse foi o momento da separação da cápsula da sonda da cápsula com a sonda Osiris, né? Esse foi o momento então da separação.
That command came after more than almost 4 billion miles of spaceflight and years of planning, plotting, and dreaming about this asteroid Bennu. The SRC has now been separated from the main OSIRIS-REx spacecraft and is coming in rain or shine today. So team members are keenly aware of the weather conditions out on the range. It's looking pretty great for today. We did have a bit of rain the other day, which softened up that landing spot just enough to make the SRC land perfectly smooth on that surface. The temperatures are going to be around the 50s, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Low winds out there, calm winds at the surface around 6 miles an hour, pretty light. Very clear skies this morning as well. As we were actually driving out, I saw a shooting star, a meteor, and in just a few moments, the SRC itself will be streaking across the skies as we begin to track
Todo mundo
it.
que tá chegando aí a
Just a
nossa
few moments
transmissão,
ago,
sejam todos
we heard the
bem-vindos,
helicopters
11
take
horas.
off from here to head out to
5
wait
minutos
just at
pelo
the
horário
edge
de
of the
Brasília.
landing ellipse.
Hoje,
Our
então,
high altitude plane
acompanhando
is up in
mais
the
esse
sky,
momento
ready to
histórico.
take images in the
Aí
infrared
do
of our
retorno, então, da
SRC,
cápsula
and we
da
are
sonda
here ready
Osiris
to
com
go to
amostras
cover all
do
of today's mission
asteroide
events.
Bennu.
I'm going to be right here with you all throughout the process as we get
Faltando
closer
menos de
to that
50
entry,
minutos.
descent, and
50
landing.
minutos para o
But for
pouso.
now, back to you, Lauren and Jim.
All right, thanks, James. We'll be back to you for mission status updates
Lembrando
throughout
que
the
o
morning.
procedimento então,
For
de
now, let's
reentrada
give you a quick
deve
geography
demorar
lesson
aí em
on
torno
where
de
we are
13
today.
minutos.
We are sitting about 85 miles southwest of Salt Lake City in the heart of the
Então, quem lançou essa sonda foi
o
pessoal da
In
própria,
less than an hour, the
se
sample
não me
will
engano,
touch
acho que foi
down
da
in our
ULA.
landing ellipse at the Utah Test and
Isso
Training
aconteceu em
Range, managed by the
2016,
Air
há
Force,
7
about
anos
13
atrás.
miles north of where we're speaking right now. Mission teams have set up a clean room just 1
foi
mile
pessoal
away
da
from us, where the
ULA,
sample will
da
end its
United
journey today.
Launch.
Tomorrow
Deixa eu
morning,
só
a
confirmar para vocês,
C-17
mas acho
aircraft
que
will
foi da
take off
United
from the runway
Launch.
behind us and deliver the
Aliás,
sample to NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston.
Unbelievable. Can't wait.
Oh gosh, I can't wait to see that C-17. Oh, that's going to be breathtaking. We have a lot of ground to cover, and we'll be bringing you into the heart of the action. For all of NASA's many missions over the years, OSIRIS-REx lives in an extremely rare category. It not only ventured out into space with cameras and sensors, but it's bringing a physical sample of the ancient solar system back to Earth for detailed analysis. Mission planners selected a small asteroid called Bennu as their destination. Following a successful touch-and-go procedure to grab a sample on October 20th, 2020, OSIRIS-REx has been making its way back to Earth. It's been a thrilling ride already packed with technical achievements and scientific discoveries. Today's historic landing continues that saga, promising exciting research ahead. Beside our main event this morning, we've got a ton of extremely
Então, esta
cool
missão
stuff.
da Osiris,
We'll
né,
hear from a
começou
special
em
guest
2016,
astrophysicist whom you probably
né,
recognize
com o
more
objetivo
for
então
his
de
chart
coletar
toppers. We'll
amostras
speak with one
do
of the
asteroide
helicopter
Bennu
pilots about his role
e
in getting
retornar
recovery teams
à
out to the
Terra.
landing site and bringing the capsule back home. And we'll even hear from the cast of the film Asteroid City. And of course,
Foi
we'll
o
give you a
veículo então
front row seat
Atlas
to the mission
5, né, da
itself, the
United
science,
Launch
the engineering, and why a
Alliance, né,
mission
que
to
fez
gather
então
space rocks.
este
rocks.
lançamento, tá? Respondendo aí a pergunta de
NASA's
vocês.
first asteroid sample return happens in less than 35 minutes.
Foi o Atlas
Let's now
5.
take you to Wig Mountain, where our field reporter, Sophia Roberts, is standing at the forward edge of the vast landing zone, where she joins us live now. Sophia,
Thank you,
paint us a picture.
Lauren and Jim.
Estamos aí então
Now,
no
it is
deserto
a
de
bright
Utah, nos
and
Estados
chilly morning,
Unidos.
but the excitement certainly is rising. Now, let me give you a lay of the land of what is going to happen today. The sample return capsule is going to hit the top of the atmosphere at approximately 8:40.
Estamos aí então na
It will
zona de
descend
pouso, onde
through
vai
atmosphere
então fazer
for 13 minutes
a
before
cápsula então vai
touchdown.
fazer o seu
Once it does
touchdown.
touch down, our team with the recovery team will go
Faltando
to the
então menos de
sample or the
47
capsule
minutos para
and
o
start
pouso.
that carefully
Momentos
rehearsed
aí
recovery process.
de
Now,
tensão,
I am
né?
on the edge of the
Nesse grande
landing
momento
zone that
histórico
we
aí
call
para
the ellipse. It
todos
is a
nós.
huge landing zone that is larger than the size of Rhode Island. And behind me are the
Lembrando então que
helicopters
esta
that
missão,
will
né,
be
tem como
taking those
objetivo aí, então
recovery
de
teams to the
coletar
capsule
amostras,
once
o objetivo
it
então de
lands.
fazer
Now,
coleta de
these
amostras,
teams
né,
are
no asteroide
prepped and
Bennu,
ready to go.
que
You're
fica
just
então ali
waiting
na
for that
região de
capsule
cinturão de
to
asteroides.
arrive. Back to you, Lauren.
Para
Wow,
estudar um
Sophia,
pouco mais aí
I think
sobre
she is
a
the best
composição
Oh my
deles,
God, take me
I
there.
e
wanna go
ver
there.
como é que faz
All
então
right,
aí
let's get some
para
quick facts about the OSIRIS-REx
questão também de
spacecraft.
segurança nossa, né, do
Filled with fuel, the
planeta.
vehicle weighs more than 4,600
E
pounds. That's about the same size as 3
também
large
para ver
cows.
se tem
Did you know
alguma
that, Jim?
alguma
I did not,
amostra
and I'm afraid of those
orgânica, né,
Let's stay
dentro
away from the
desses
cows. With the solar arrays
asteroides
extended, the
rochosos.
spacecraft is about 40 feet long, or the size of a short school bus. The solar
Então
arrays
temos aí
can power
algumas
up to 3,000
características aí
watts, which is
do
the same
Osiris.
as a portable generator. Once on Bennu, the 11-foot robotic arm collected dust and pebble samples, while the cameras got up close
Lembrando que tem dois painéis
images of the
solares e
asteroid.
3
How about that?
câmeras
And then, of course,
a
there's
bordo.
the SRC, or the Sample Return Capsule, the capsule that's separated from the main vehicle and is currently on its way to our landing zone in the Utah desert. So, Jim, I think importantly, the team can't just open up the capsule
Faltando então aí menos de 46 minutos para o pouso do
So next we have to
Osiris.
safe it. We have to bag it, we have to contain it and transport it to the clean room about a mile from here. And in that clean room, we will actually bring the sample return capsule,
esta aí é a
take off
sala
the back shell
limpa
and the heat
que
shield,
fica
and
em
carefully
Utah, nos
arrange
Estados
the
Unidos, né,
nitrogen
onde então vai
purge
ser
that special
levado
sample container inside, so it
aí
does
as
not
amostras
introduce any contamination from
para
Earth, because we want
começar então
asteroid, not
os
Earth.
estudos
That's right.
destas
And I love
amostras,
missions
né?
like
Então
this
será
because I
levado
find my
então
own imagination
para
just
esta
bursting
sala
with possibilities
limpa
and questions.
em Utah, nos
And
Estados
so,
Unidos.
with about a little bit more than 30 minutes to go before the SRC hits the top of the atmosphere, we're going to take a few minutes to dive into the nuts and bolts of the mission itself. We've got a great mission overview to help explain. Take a look.
OSIRIS-REx is NASA's first
E aí vamos
asteroid
ver aí
sample
como é que
return
foi
mission.
então o
It launched in
lançamento
September 2016 on a journey to explore a near-Earth asteroid
em
called
2016, né?
Bennu.
Aconteceu o
After arriving in
lançamento pelo Atlas
2018,
5.
OSIRIS-REx spent nearly 2 years orbiting Bennu,
Veio pelo
mapping and
Atlas 5,
studying its
então aí
rugged
fez o
terrain
lançamento da
before
sonda
carrying
Osiris em
out its primary
2016.
science objective. On October 20th, 2020, the spacecraft ventured to a small
Em outubro então de
crater in the asteroid's
2020, né,
northern
tivemos o
hemisphere.
pouso
It dodged jagged
do
rocks
Osiris
and towering boulders
no
and
asteroide
plunged its
Bennu.
arm into the loose surface, excavating 6 tons of debris while collecting about 250 grams of
Onde
material.
então aí começou aí a coleta
OSIRIS-REx stowed its bounty
das
and closed
amostras.
its sample return capsule. It bid farewell to Bennu in May 2021, embarking on a 1.2 billion mile cruise back to Earth. Now, 2 years and 4 months after leaving Bennu, OSIRIS-REx is closing in on the place where its journey began. On September 24th, the spacecraft will approach to nearly 63,000 miles from Earth. It will power up and release its sample return capsule at 4:42 a.m. Mountain Time. The capsule must be jettisoned within a narrow time frame and at just the right angle to hit its target, an area of
E
roughly
aí tá o momento do
250
retorno
square miles in Utah's West
da
Desert.
cápsula.
Once the capsule is
da
away,
sonda Osiris.
OSIRIS-REx will fire its thrusters to
Né,
avoid colliding with
já
Earth.
aconteceu esse momento então da separação.
At 8:42 a.m., the capsule will streak into the atmosphere at a blistering 27,000 miles per hour. It will race across the western U.S. and begin to glow with heat, allowing infrared trackers on the ground to chart its progress. As it pushes deeper
Então
into the
lembrando que o
atmosphere,
retorno
the
deve
capsule
acontecer
will
aí por
rapidly
em torno de
decelerate,
13 minutos.
subjecting the Bennu samples to a punishing 32 Gs. About 2 minutes after entry, it will slow to Mach 1.4 and deploy its drogue parachute, stabilizing its descent. The capsule will enter special use airspace at 8:46 a.m., almost 10 miles above the Department of Defense Utah Test and Training Range. Radar stations will lock on and track it to within 30 feet of its landing
Então,
site.
o PIX é
At
nesse QR
8:50
Code,
a.m.,
né?
the
Você
capsule
pode
will extract and deploy its main parachute
fazer
1
através
mile
do QR
above the
Code ou
ground.
então
It will make its
aí
final
no,
descent
na
at a leisurely
descrição
11 miles per hour,
tem o e-mail,
like a marathon
né,
runner
também do
savoring a
PIX.
victory lap, before touching down in the desert soil at 8:55.
E aí estamos aí com imagens ao vivo em Utah, novamente, nos Estados Unidos.
Me too.
Amazing. All right, so we know you have
Acompanhando então
questions,
esse
so
grande
please continue
momento
to send them to
histórico
us
mais uma
using the
vez aqui
hashtag
em nosso canal
AskNASA.
WillPTV.
But before we go any further, I've got a question for you, Jim. Why is the mission called OSIRIS-REx? It sounds
Faltando
like
então
a
aí
new
42
hybrid
minutos
kind of
para o
dinosaur or
pouso.
something.
It does, but it's actually the name of an Egyptian deity, a bird deity, but it means all the stuff the mission's going to be doing. So we're going to be searching for clues
Lembrando
to
que
the
na
origins of our
madrugada
solar
então do
system
dia
chemically, looking at how
25,
we can ground
a
truth
partir
all
das
the
4
data
e
we have
10 da
for
manhã,
asteroids
vamos
from Earth,
acompanhar
other spacecraft right
mais
up
uma
close with
missão
samples.
Starlink
We're
na
going to look
base
at
de
the research
Vandenberg,
potential of asteroids,
na
metals,
Califórnia.
hydrated water as in hydrated minerals,
E tem
and
vídeo
also
novo no
consider
canal, né?
security
Quem
of
ainda
our
não
planet
sabe,
from
né?
these
Tem vídeo
kinds of
novo aí no
objects.
canal.
It's a big name
Na parte
with a
então
big mission
WillPTV
with many
Tech,
things it has to do.
onde então
It's multiple missions in
estamos
one.
fazendo uma nova
Three
série
missions
de
in one, in
vídeos
fact. We know we have a
aí
global
no
audience for this
Python,
event,
né?
and throughout the
O
morning we'll be
pacote
taking questions
SymPy,
submitted
né?
via
Eu
social
estou
media.
ensinando aí
So let's take
como fazer
one
os
now. All right, what do we have?
cálculos, né?
At
Como trabalhar a
S4
disciplina cálculo,
_B asks,
né?
what's the
Em
significance of studying
no
asteroids like
pacote
Bennu for
SymPy.
advancements in planetary science?
These are literally the time capsules of the early solar system.
Já vimos então a parte de limites e limites laterais, né? E vamos ver como faz depois limites laterais utilizando então as sentenças, né, dos limites.
We will read the clues of Mother Nature on how our world works in the context of all the rest of the
41
planetary system.
minutos. 41 minutos.
All right, let's take
Faltam
another
então aí
question. What
para
do we have? All right, from
pouso.
at Endanger817. Approximately how large is the sample size and what kind of analysis will be performed?
So it's about 8 or 9 ounces. It's about a size of a baseball and a half, and the kind of analyses are amazing. There are toolkits and instruments that can look at nanoscale
Estamos então aí
characteristics
acompanhando, para quem está chegando agora, né, na nossa transmissão. Sejam todos bem-vindos, 11 horas e 15 minutos no horário de Brasília. Faltando então aí 40 minutos para o pouso da sonda, da cápsula da sonda Osiris, que será realizado aí no deserto de Utah, nos Estados Unidos. Lembrando que esta missão então teve o início em 2016, teve um lançamento realizado pelo veículo Atlas 5, Cabo Canaveral, nos Estados Unidos. Onde então ela teve o pouso realizado em outubro de 2020 no asteroide Bennu, que fica então localizado no cinturão de asteroides, onde então coletou amostras deste asteroide. E aí então hoje, dia 24 de setembro, então estamos aí acompanhando o momento do retorno e o pouso da cápsula da sonda Osiris. Então essa missão tem como objetivo então da gente entender mais como é a composição desses asteroides que ficam localizados então, nesse cinturão de asteroides, né, justamente então analisando a sua composição química e também para ver se tem algum material orgânico lá também. Isso serve também para auxiliar também na questão de segurança aí também do nosso planeta, né? Quanto mais a gente entende algum objeto, né, mais a gente pode aí fazer o seu desvio, né? Justamente como aconteceu com aquela sonda DART, né, que a gente acompanhou lá na Twitch, né, a gente acompanhou por lá, um choque que a gente fez aí, uma simulação de choque então em um asteroide, para ver se a gente consegue fazer então o seu desvio de órbita, né? Então as transmissões aí de testes aí são importantes justamente para a segurança, né, do nosso planeta.
Yeah, so the Utah Test and Training Range, we do have a lot of different hazards out here. Like I said, the weapon systems that we test.
Faltando então aí 38 minutos para o pouso.
We have, again, done many of the preparations with them already. They've taken safety briefings. They've been briefed on the actual items that we've dropped out here.
Estamos então aí para a transmissão ao vivo direto da
One of the hazards that we're going to be dealing with, though, is the helicopters that you see behind us, and
onde também fica localizado aí a sala limpa,
onde
então será levado as amostras da cápsula da sonda Osiris para serem estudadas nesta sala limpa.
So that I think is going to be our biggest hazard, but it could be fun too. So.
Well, wonderful. I know that you have your last preparations for the day, so I'm going to let you go, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Sophia.
Thanks, Sophia. Stu's got a big day today.
Oh my goodness.
All right,
Obrigado
Jan,
aí,
we
João,
have space fans from all walks of life all over the world. One super fan in particular is a well-known astrophysicist with an atypical side hustle. But I'm guessing you know him probably more, probably more from his side thing
Muito obrigado, João, aí pelo
Well, that's right. He's literally space royalty and rock royalty.
Né, cada contribuição também ajuda bastante aí. Para que a gente possa aí continuar aí com o nosso trabalho, né?
Hello, NASA folks, space fans, asteroid.
Lembrando que no dia 5 de outubro, né, vamos ter aí o quarto voo da Virgin Galactic. Ainda não temos informações se terá transmissão ou não, mas vocês podem acompanhar aí tudo nas nossas redes sociais, né, inclusive no X, né, que é o mesmo nome do canal. No dia 5 também está programado para acontecer aí o voo com o Falcon Heavy, né, no dia 5 de outubro também.
Speaking of rockstars, joining us is NASA's Lori Glaze, Planetary Science Mission Director. Welcome, Lori.
Hey, Hey, good morning.
Great to have you here, Lori.
Great to have you.
E no dia 4 de outubro, já tem programada a emissão com Vega, né, do Ariane Space, no dia 4 de outubro. Inclusive já tem o link dessa transmissão aqui no canal.
Is part of a larger autumn for asteroid autumn, as we've been saying. Can you talk about some of the other missions that are happening this fall?
11 horas e 20 minutos pelo horário de Brasília, faltando então aí menos de 35 minutos para o pouso aí da sonda Osiris, da cápsula da sonda Osiris.
Sample return happening today in 2 days. On September 26th is the 1-year anniversary of a little mission you may have heard of last year called the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, demonstrated for the first time humanity's ability to deflect the path of an asteroid. How cool is that? And then coming up on October 5th is the launch of a mission called Psyche, going to visit a special asteroid called Psyche also, which is one of only about 9 asteroids that we think are made primarily of metal, have a very high metal content, iron and nickel. And then about a month after that, on November 1st, is going to be the first asteroid flyby of our mission called Lucy, which will ultimately visit Trojan asteroids that lead and trail Jupiter in its orbit around the sun. But in November, we'll fly by a main belt asteroid called Dinkinesh.
Wow.
Wow, check that out.
It literally is an asteroid arm. But Lori, one other thing, OSIRIS-REx, is a multi-purpose mission, all this great stuff you mentioned, and one of its key jobs is to help us with planetary defense. How does it do that? Way out there.
So actually, OSIRIS-REx gave us some really important new information about an effect, a force that occurs on asteroids.
Lembrando que aqui também no nosso canal vocês acompanham também as caminhadas espaciais que acontecem do lado de fora da Estação Espacial Internacional, tanto pelo lado russo quanto pelo lado americano.
The radiation
Vocês
radiates off
acompanham
into the
aqui
deep
tudo na
space, and that
íntegra.
actually kind of acts as a force that kind of pushes back against the forward trajectory, and so it changes our predictions on where the asteroid might be. Over time, it really makes a difference, and OSIRIS-REx gave us some fantastic new measurements on that effect.
Unbelievable.
Wow, that is truly unbelievable. Nobody appreciates the planetary defense aspect more than me and Jim.
Yeah, we want to be safe.
Big fans. Really quickly here. This isn't the end for OSIRIS-REx. What's next?
Yeah, so really exciting. Now that the spacecraft has released the capsule successfully. About 20 minutes after that release, we're now repurposing the spacecraft for a new mission called OSIRIS-APEX, where APEX stands for Apophis Explorer, and it's off on its new mission to explore the asteroid Apophis, which is going to have a close flyby of Earth in 2029.
All right, stay tuned, everybody.
Unbelievable.
That is fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Lori, for
Thanks,
joining
Lori.
us. You're going to stick around for the show, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. This will be the biggest U.S. sample return since the Apollo mission to the moon. But this is not the first time that anyone has captured a piece of an asteroid. On the arrival of the historic OSIRIS-REx sample, we celebrate that the Japanese Space Agency, or JAXA, has already visited 2 asteroids, Itokawa in 2005 and the asteroid Ryugu in 2019. The missions Hayabusa and Hayabusa 2 proved that it could be done and paved the way for today's ambitious goals of this daring enterprise. All right, let's send it back over to James for an update on mission operations. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. So everything continues to be nominal. I've been tracking the mission status here. Everyone looks dialed in, ready to go. You saw a few moments ago Sophia with Stu Wiley, our on-scene commander. He's ready to go. He understands the mission. They are ready to get out and recover that sample today. And as I mentioned earlier, just a few moments ago, actually I guess a couple hours ago at this point now, the SRC was released from the main OSIRIS-REx spacecraft. When that release took place, it was given an initial spin, which kind of preserves its angular momentum, its speed as it's coming in
menos de 32 minutos para o pouso, então vamos estamos aí acompanhando quem está chegando agora, né, 11 horas e 24 minutos no horário de Brasília. Sejam todos bem-vindos à nossa transmissão histórica aqui no canal WillPTV, onde estamos acompanhando então o retorno da sonda, da cápsula da sonda Osiris à Terra, após 7 anos de missão.
I'm sure they are
onde estão
absolutely
aí,
thrilled for this moment.
coletou
They
amostras
might even see themselves on the
do
screen in a second,
asteroide
but
Bennu.
they are hype and ready to go. This is the Lockheed
Então
Martin
aí
team
tá
just a little bit north of
a
us in
equipe
Waterton, Colorado.
do
They are
Osiris.
also dialed in. They're the ones who gave that initial command this morning to release the SRC from the main OSIRIS-REx spacecraft.
Então aí
You just heard from
31
Lori that
minutos
OSIRIS-REx is
para
now
o
on its
pouso.
way to its
Tá
extended
lembrando
mission.
que esta missão
OSIRIS
começou
Apex
em
visiting that near-Earth asteroid
2016
Apophis. A lot coming
com o
up in just a
lançamento
few moments. We're
pelo
going to hit that
Atlas
key
5
milestone of entry, descent,
no
and
campo
landing.
lateral dos
13
Estados
minutes
Unidos.
of punishing descent through Earth's atmosphere
E
to us here
chegou
in the Utah
e a
Test and
sonda
Training
então
Range.
chegou
A
no
lot coming up in
asteroide
just a few
Bennu
moments, but for now,
em
back to you, Lauren and
2020,
Jim.
né? E agora então está
Thanks,
retornando
James. Very
à
soon,
Terra.
NASA's Artemis program will be bringing us more cosmic samples to study by visiting a familiar beacon in the sky. Give us 60 seconds, and we'll give you the moon. Artemis 3 will be the
E aí um pouquinho então da missão Artemis, né, que terá o lançamento já programado para novembro do ano que vem. Então a missão Artemis ela tem como objetivo aí de explorar e coletar amostras aí da região da zona do Polo Sul da Lua. Então ela tem como objetivo aí de entender melhor como é que é o processo de formação planetária. Né, também este é um dos objetivos aí do estudo do Osíris, né? Também de entender melhor como é que é esse processo de formação planetária e desses asteroides rochosos.
Jim, how can you not get excited about that?
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy, that's going to be so cool. All right, Sophia
Faltando menos de
is
meia
standing
hora.
at the forward edge of the
Tem
recovery
29
zone with an
minutos
update. Take it away, Sophia.
para o pouso.
All right, thank you, Lauren. We are under 20 minutes
E aí,
away from EDL.
estamos novamente no
That is
deserto de
entry,
Utah,
descent, and landing. And I don't think there's anyone
nos
here
Estados
on
Unidos.
planet Earth who has anticipated this day more than the principal investigator of the mission, Dante
Então aí vamos
Loretta.
acompanhar aí o
Thank you for
momento do
giving us
pouso
time here
da cápsula da
today.
sonda Osiris.
All right, so you are here on Wig Mountain because you are on the recovery team.
That's right.
Can you walk us through what you're going to be doing today?
So I'm part of the environmental sampling group. From day one, this mission has paid attention to keeping that sample pristine.
E aí não se esqueça, né, quem está assistindo então essa transmissão, deixa o like aí no nosso canal, na nossa transmissão. E quem ainda não se inscreveu, se inscreva, né? Faltam apenas 10 inscritos para chegarmos aí à marca de 700 inscritos em nosso canal. E também siga a gente nas nossas redes sociais. Você está assistindo ao canal WillPTV, onde eu trago tudo aí de mais importante e relevante para vocês aí das missões. Também dos lançamentos ao retorno do mundo.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a professor at the University of Arizona in the Lunar and Planetary Laboratory, and our history goes all the way back to the Apollo missions. The founder of our lab, Gerard Kuiper, mapped the moon, helped pick the Apollo landing sites and the Surveyor landing sites, and we have been involved in every major NASA planetary mission since then. And really the best part of having a university lead a program like this is that it's a great training ground for the next generation. I've been on this program almost 20 years, and I've watched multiple generations of students grow up, become professionals, either join the team. We always take our team members on board when we need to fill roles, or off into other careers in aerospace engineering, science, and many other disciplines.
It's really great to foster those incredible questions about our universe.
Absolutely.
And I know that you need to get back to your team to go on that recovery process.
Yeah, the moment's almost here.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck out there today.
Thank you.
All right, back to you, Lauren.
Great, thanks, Sophia. Wow, I can't wait for Dante to get his moment in the sun.
Goes Dante.
That is amazing. All right, so Jim, the whole OSIRIS-REx spacecraft is not coming back today, right? It's just a part of it.
That's right. This is the whole spacecraft, 40 feet long, the size of a school bus. But this special little thing here, the sample return capsule, is bringing home the goodies. And that's what we've just released, and it will be entering the atmosphere, and you'll be hearing all about it. And the samples were collected at the asteroid back in October of 2020 from this TAGSAM thing that inserted them in the capsule, and the capsule was released. So that's what comes home. The rest of this goes on to Apophis.
That's right. We just heard Lori talk about that. But let's move over and
estamos aí com a réplica da sonda Osiris aí, então este aí é uma da réplica também da cápsula da sonda. Faltando aí 26 minutos para o pouso.
That's right. This is a very special spacecraft. Just like a small version
então esta parte branca, né, que nós estamos vendo é o escudo de calor.
The space station. It has a heat shield. It's about 30 inches across.
Que é o mesmo escudo de calor que é usado na Estação Espacial Internacional.
Return canister and the sample cap, the small sample canister. So this is the vehicle.
Estamos aí vendo aí como é a cápsula então da sonda Osiris. 11 horas e 30 minutos no horário de Brasília.
This is a very special spacecraft.
It absolutely is, and it also was
então lembrando que as amostras elas ficam na parte interna aí dessa cápsula. Estamos aí com imagens.
Just a couple weeks ago, we dropped this replica, this engineering test unit.
Isso aí foi a réplica aí que foi testado, né? Aí no momento para o momento do pouso, né? Desculpem. Em agosto então de 2000 agosto então do dia 30, né? Foi testado a réplica para o momento então do pouso da cápsula da sonda Osiris, né? Então esse foi o momento do teste então, da cápsula. Esse aí não é o pouso agora. Não é o pouso. Perdão.
That's right, and you know it's the actual SRC that they use because it is covered in dirt, as you can see on here.
This is dirt, scratch marks.
All the scratch marks, yeah.
It's a rough ride, but
perdão aí.
To come home. This is a real sort of homecoming.
Right. So there's a lot of science in missions like this. Not only is the SRC a treasure chest with material from the ancient solar system, but the mission itself is a platform for vital research about a range of things that you might not have expected.
Em poucos minutos, então, para o pouso da sonda Osiris, a cápsula da sonda.
Chief Scientist
e aí estamos de volta novamente com imagens ao vivo, então faltando 22 minutos para o pouso.
You're looking at the big picture. You know, how much teamwork across the agency has made to, you know, a day like today a possibility?
A mission like this takes a big team, both within NASA and without. So we outside of NASA. So the mission is managed by
11 horas e 33 minutos no horário de Brasília. Você está assistindo então o canal WillPTV no momento então do retorno da cápsula da sonda Osiris após 7 anos e 2 semanas em missão ao asteroide Bennu.
Built the spacecraft and doing flight ops. Kinetics is doing navigation. We have a science team led by the University of Arizona. And then we have
recovery operations. Helicopter 1 has departed wing to station keep outside the landing ellipse.
We got a confirmation that helicopters 1 and 2 have just taken off.
Very exciting.
Então, nesse momento, os helicópteros 1 e 2, né, que vão fazer aí a circundar a zona de pouso, né, nesse momento, então, levantaram o voo. Então, decolaram nesse momento os helicópteros segurança 1 e 2.
So scientists are looking at it to help us understand planet formation and the origins of water and carbon, which led to life here on Earth.
That's incredible.
That is incredible. And, you know, Kate, I know you've been to several launches. That's our typical bread and butter here at NASA. But this is more of a homecoming. How does that feel to you?
It's great. The environment here is so nice. Being with the team and thinking about, you know, this spacecraft launched 7 years ago. And now there's all this amazing science just around the corner.
Can you believe it? The team has really been working hard. And are you going to stick around for the show?
Awesome.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Kate, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate, for all you do.
Thank you so much. This seems like a perfect time to dig into some more information about Bennu. Bennu isn't part of the main asteroid belt. It's a NEO, a near-Earth asteroid with an orbit that occasionally brings it in close proximity with us here on Earth. Bennu is about 500 meters in diameter, which is taller than the Empire State Building. It rotates upside down on its axis compared to Earth, with a tilt of over 177 degrees. Scientists chose to study Bennu because of its
operations. Helicopter 2 has departed WIG. The station keep outside the landing ellipse.
All right, so you just heard that they have departed WIG. Excellent progress. Fantastic. Woo. All right. Moving on, it isn't as smooth a surface as we initially thought. It's actually covered in pebbles and marked by these large rocks and boulders nearly everywhere. One boulder in particular that OSIRIS-REx had to navigate around was nicknamed Mount Doom and was the size of a 2-story building. Bennu holds the Guinness World Record of the smallest object to be orbited by a spacecraft. Fun. Now let's get an update from Sophia, who is standing on the edge of the ellipse. Take it away, Sophia.
Okay, 2 of the helicopters have already just departed, so the team is already in the recovery process, or at least the beginning phases of it. But right now, we are waiting to hear precisely where the capsule is going to land before the rest of the teams head on over to that location. Now we are about under 10 minutes away from the capsule hitting the top of our atmosphere, and we are eagerly anticipating this largest sample of ancient solar system material that we have received since the last Apollo mission in 1972.
Então aí 19 minutos para o pouso da cápsula da sonda Osiris. Horário de Brasília, 11 horas e 36 minutos. Estamos então acompanhando ao vivo, então, o retorno da cápsula da sonda Osiris aí no deserto de Utah, nos Estados Unidos. Lembrando então que esta cápsula da sonda Osiris então carrega amostras que foram coletadas no asteroide Bennu.
See the operational milestones we're expecting throughout the morning. SRC separation already happened, and the capsule is now heading for its rendezvous with Earth's atmosphere. Jim, it always appears like these operations are simply inevitable. You know, we grabbed the sample, we flew it back to Earth, we're headed in for landing, but it's never that simple, is it?
No, not at all. And so we have a lot of critical events that take masterful engineering. We have to hit the top of the atmosphere, transition through a high G, high heat environment.
Lembrando que na madrugada do dia 25 nós vamos acompanhar aí mais uma missão Starlink a partir das 4h10 da manhã no horário de Brasília, na base então de Vandenberg, na Califórnia.
The sample into our clean room here, so we're ready to transfer tomorrow to Houston to the Johnson Space Center. So this is a big process, well rehearsed by a masterful team.
Absolutely, and contains, you know, work from thousands of individuals who are making this happen. All right, so we know that you're submitting questions from all over. Let's take a few more social questions. All right, what do we have? At Dev Saran at 5342461. What are the preliminary steps to take to test a sample? The preliminary steps.
So first thing we do is, of course, bag it here and get it into the clean room and get that sample, that sample canister inside the sample return capsule, get it under nitrogen purge, meaning we flow nitrogen gas so no Earth atmosphere and microbes get involved. That'll happen today. period of a few hours. And then tomorrow we transfer to the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, where all the fun happens at the Astromaterials Curational Facility, where we've done moon rocks and samples of interplanetary dust and lots of things. Those colleagues in a special clean room perfectly designed for this mission will unpack those precious samples in the small sample canister, the small device that was used on the end of the TAGSAM, and they will go through a process to get it checked out, to do early reconnaissance, and to protect it very carefully.
That is incredible, and they built that whole clean room. No other asteroid samples before. This is the first one.
First ever.
First ever. As the SRC approaches the edge of Earth's atmosphere, we are just moments away from the world's largest ever asteroid sample return. Jim, what are you feeling right now?
I am literally tingling all over with exhilaration. This is a small step for a capsule and a giant leap for science.
It really is, and if that's one thing we can impart, that is it. This is a huge, huge milestone, a great achievement. So this is it. We are just 15 minutes away from the OSIRIS-REx sample return, a journey of 7 years and nearly 4 billion miles. The work of thousands culminates in this moment. Let's turn it over to our mission commentator, James Traley, to take us through the final moments. James, we're all yours.
11 horas e 40 minutos no horário de Brasília. Estamos então aí acompanhando no nosso canal WillPTV o momento então do retorno da cápsula da sonda Osiris. Faltando então aí 15 minutos para o retorno. Para o pouso então, faltando aí 15 minutos.
Recovery operations, helicopters 1 and 2 have arrived at the holding location.
So good news, our helicopters are ready to go and begin those recovery operations just as soon as we have confirmation of touchdown here. And as the sun begins to rise in the west coast, the SRC is going to be streaking across the atmosphere above San Francisco, California, about 82 miles in altitude. It's going to be coming in hot, over 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, almost a couple seconds after it hits that atmosphere. That's about half as warm as the surface of the sun, to give you some context. But don't worry, our sample will be safe and sound within. We have a heat shield, which is made of phenolic impregnated carbon ablator. It's a very fancy term to describe what's going on with this heat shield. It basically ablates away or burns away any kind of heat flux that develops on that outer shell, making sure that our sample is safe and cool within. Similar technology that we use with astronauts coming back from the moon, or any kind of other landers that we have going into planets and moons. So we're just a couple moments away from this key moment. It's going to be very exciting next couple 13 minutes here, and you'll hear a couple call-outs come in from just next door in our mission operations team as they begin to get us ready for this key moment. It's a journey of 3.86 billion miles getting reduced to the scale of mere miles, 82 miles above the surface of the Earth in San Francisco. A couple key events are going to happen as soon as we get into Earth's atmosphere. Very quickly we're going to deploy our drogue parachute. This is for stability. Stabilizes our descent and makes sure that we are continuing to target that landing ellipse that is here in the Utah test and training range. It is a 36.5 by 8 mile landing ellipse that is here, marked out for that recovery operation. You see on your screen now the mission ops team eager at the edge of their seats for that first call out of Earth atmospheric entry. Very exciting moment coming up in just a few seconds here.
Aí na sala limpa que fica
about 20 seconds away, you see the team at Lockheed now, all standing ready on the edge of their seats. This team, I'll remind you, just a few hours ago, gave that command to release the SRC on this long journey. It's been on its own for 4 hours. There's nothing we can do at this point. It's coming in, rain or shine.
EO milestone. The SRC has entered the Earth's atmosphere. UTTR tracking assets have acquired.
Então, confirmada a reentrada na atmosfera, reentrada iniciada.
Entry, descent, and landing. We have that expected milestone of entering into the Earth's atmosphere.
Reentrada iniciando neste momento. Estamos aí com o visual. Estamos aí então com o visual do
at about 47,000 feet MSL, mean sea level, getting a great view of that SRC heating up as it enters into Earth's atmosphere. The punishing deceleration that spacecraft, that SRC is experiencing right now, as it comes in at about 27,650 miles an hour. You can see it glowing brightly in the sky. In just a few moments, we're going to reach peak heating and peak deceleration. That's at 32 G-forces, punishing G-forces on our SRC. A phenomenal view of that streaking SRC coming in across the sky.
Aí no visual para vocês aí então a reentrada da cápsula Osiris.
At this point, we have entered in over San Francisco, California, and are very quickly going to be approaching the Utah test and training range just a little bit further.
12 minutos para o pouso.
Entry was at
EO milestone. SRC is experiencing maximum heating and maximum deceleration.
So you just heard right there, we're experiencing that 5,000 degree Fahrenheit maximum heating, burning scalding hot on that heat shield that is protecting our sample within, and maximum
Estamos aí nesse
deceleration that is
momento
at
com a
32 G-force,
máximo
punishing
de
deceleration from Earth's atmospheric
plasma
drag forces
aí na
that are acting
reentrada.
on that SRC. Once again, as I mentioned, that sample is safe and sound within that SRC, that sample return capsule, as it
E
comes
nesse
in,
momento então
burning through Earth's
teremos aí o
atmosphere.
procedimento de
You can see
dentro
our
do
high
instante então
altitude plane
teremos aí a
searching for
abertura
that
do
SRC. You can see it faintly
paraquedas
on your screen
auxiliar.
there. Our next milestone will be expecting that
Faltando então
drogue
11
parachute
minutos
deployment.
para o
That'll be at
pouso.
about 102,300
Estamos aí acompanhando ao vivo
altitude.
então o retorno
And as I mentioned before, that will
da
stabilize our
cápsula da
descent
sonda
and slow us
Osiris.
from hypersonic to subsonic speeds as we continue to target the Utah test and training range.
Expected EDO milestone. SRC commands drogue parachute deploy.
So we heard that command to deploy the drogue parachute, waiting to see that visual confirmation, but that is at 102,300 feet.
Estamos aguardando então a confirmação
And
da
a side
abertura
note,
do
at
paraquedas
this
no
time,
visual.
8:44 a.m. Mountain Time, the OSIRIS Apex spacecraft is at its closest approach to Earth. That will be on to its extended mission visiting the asteroid Apophis in the year 2029, continuing this incredible mission at another world. And in just a few moments, we should enter into special use airspace at approximately 8:46 a.m. That's going to be at 10 miles off the deck here at Utah Test and Training Range. You can still see that SRC on your screen very faintly in the distance.
11 horas e
Still
45
quite warm,
minutos,
that
faltando
fireball
10 minutos para
literally
o
was a ball of plasma
pouso.
just a few
Estamos
moments
aí
ago when it first
acompanhando o
entered into
momento
the Earth's
então do
atmosphere.
retorno da cápsula da sonda Osiris
That SRC is nearly 3 feet wide, 1.6
para
feet
então
tall. It's a
seu
small object, so
touchdown,
quite a challenge
seu
to track
toque no
this as it
solo
comes
aí
searing
na
into
em
Earth's
Utah, nos
atmosphere.
Estados Unidos.
And in just a few moments, we should be entering into special use airspace. This area was specifically
Estamos
chosen
aí
for this
aguardando
mission. It's
imagens
a wide open,
do
vast
visual aí
desert
da
space,
abertura do
relatively
paraquedas.
flat, perfect to land the sample today. We did, as I mentioned, have a couple days of rain here leading up to this event, so the ground is a little bit soft. You can see our SRC.
Aquele ponto preto ali que vocês estão vendo no centro da tela é a cápsula da sonda Osiris.
Streaking in. This is from our high altitude cam.
Estamos aguardando a abertura do paraquedas. Faltando então aí 8 minutos, menos de 8 minutos e 40 segundos para o pouso.
Our next milestone, we should be expecting main parachute deployment at around 8:49 a.m. Mountain Time. That will be at around 5,000 feet elevation.
Estamos aí aguardando a
Continue
abertura
to
do
track
paraquedas.
with our high altitude camera here. As I mentioned, that sample is thermally isolated within that SRC, a very complex labyrinth network of piping and tubing leading into that sample canister within that just a few years ago was on the other side of the solar system from us
Estamos aí então no
sampling an asteroid
deserto de
Bennu.
Utah, nos Estados Unidos, acompanhando então o momento do retorno da
The
cápsula
team has incredible
da
precision on this
sonda
mission as well.
Osiris.
Just a few days ago, on the 17th of September, they did their final trajectory correction maneuver,
Retornando à Terra, então
TCM-12.
após 7 anos
This corrected
de
our
missão aí,
velocity by
recolhendo
3 millimeters per
amostras
second.
no asteroide Bennu.
We see
Abertura do paraquedas.
wow.
Abertura então confirmada aí do paraquedas.
Streak across Earth's atmosphere. We have parachute deployment. You can see just a sigh of relief from the team. I can hear some applause here.
Abertura do
There it is,
paraquedas
that
então sendo
orange
confirmada
crucible colored
neste momento
parachute,
no
just a
visual.
delight, a sweet delight to see in our sky here over the Utah Test and Training Range. A phenomenal view, just wonderful to see that deployment. That is at
7
around
minutos para o
5,000 feet
pouso.
elevation above the Utah Test and Training Range. And now this is like a marathon runner savoring that last lap here as we approach the finish, that landing in the Utah Test and Training Range. Wonderful to see that. We continue to track. This is with our high altitude camera still, that WB-57. And we should have a great view from here on the ground. We've got a variety of different tracking assets, and you saw Sophia out at the edge of that ellipse watching from Wig Mountain. The team there could potentially have a wonderful view momentarily as well. We'll continue to descend. Our next altitude descent will be at about 4,000 feet.
Então, nesse momento, continua aí a descida
just a few minutes away from getting that sample from the other side of the solar system, from the surface of asteroid Bennu at sample site Nightingale to the rug. Looks like winds are relatively low. Not a lot of rocking back and forth.
Quem ainda não se inscreveu no nosso canal, se inscreva no nosso canal. Deixa o like aí na transmissão.
Continuing to descend, a slight little bit of tilt back and forth of our SRC as it comes to its resting velocity of 11 miles per hour as it makes that final descent.
6 minutos para o
parachute
pouso.
deployment was given internally by the spacecraft. All of what you're seeing now is autonomous on board that SRC. And once that successfully lands, the teams will begin the next crucial phase of this mission, sample recovery operations. They've been rehearsing for this moment for months, literally years, really, leading up to this key moment. And are ready to begin those operations to get that SRC into our portable clean room here and extract that sample canister within.
Esse momento histórico aqui no nosso
According to
canal.
my watch, we're about 5 minutes away from landing with our SRC. And as we heard a few moments ago, helicopters 1 and 2 are already staged and ready to begin those recovery operations just as soon as we have confirmation of touchdown.
5 minutos para o pouso.
This is a variable clock, so this could be a little bit faster, a little bit slower as we get closer in. This wind speed here is a variable that is quite hard to predict, especially once you're high up in the atmosphere. We did release a weather balloon earlier on this afternoon, or earlier on this morning rather, to get a profile of our atmospheric conditions. The team puts those into various models as they prepare for this key moment. But once again, they are a little bit hard to predict, a little bit of variability, so we may kind of bounce around a little bit on that predicted OSIRIS-REx sample return capsule touchdown time. The ground really closing in now on that SRC.
EDL milestone. Helo 1 has visual on the SRC below the chute.
That is phenomenal. Let's see that view here from that first helicopter. They've got visual on the sample return capsule.
O primeiro helicóptero já tem o visual aí do
really bright than the morning light over the Utah Test and Training Range. A great view of the SRC we can have now from our helicopter as it continues to make its final descent to the terrain below.
Estamos aí acompanhando, então, continuando acompanhando.
And once again, just setting the context for this, when we first hit the top of the atmosphere, we were at 27,650 miles per hour. We are now leisurely decelerating under our orange parachute to 11 miles per hour. Incredible amount of deceleration there as Earth's atmosphere really helped us out quite a bit, getting that initial deceleration. Our drogue parachute initially stabilizing our descent, and then ultimately that main parachute bringing us home. You can see right in the center of that crosshair, that is the parachute with the SRC dangling beneath. The team on the
3 minutos para o pouso. Então, confirmado o touchdown. Confirmado aí o touchdown. Pouso confirmado com sucesso. Às 11 horas e 52 minutos pelo horário de Brasília. Confirmados então aí. Confirmado o pouso.
Unofficial touchdown time, 8:52 a.m. Mountain. And the team can now breathe an immense sigh of relief.
Pousou aí com sucesso às 11 horas e 52 minutos no horário de Brasília. A cápsula então da sonda Osiris retornando à Terra após 7 anos de missão, né, com início em 2016, com o lançamento do veículo Atlas 5 da United Launch Alliance, canaveral nos Estados Unidos, onde teve o pouso no asteroide Bennu em 2020, em outubro de 2020, retornando à Terra hoje, 24 de setembro de 2023.
And a little bit ahead of schedule too. The SRC
Às
landing
11
about 3
horas e
minutes ahead of when
52
we had
minutos.
originally predicted. It was in a rush to get back here, carrying amazing amount of scientific information within. The team is eager to crack that SRC open, get the sample canister within, and begin the process of understanding the origins of our solar system and potentially the origins of life. We're not in the clear just yet. A key piece of the mission is about to get underway. This is the recovery
temos aí, então, o
operation
pouso
phase. Once the
confirmado.
team has officially confirmed the exact touchdown location, they'll be
Estamos
flying on
aguardando,
4
então,
separate helicopters. And while
visual,
we're much
né,
like a
de
Formula One pit crew,
mais
if
de
you will,
perto
to
então da
recover the
cápsula.
SRC, take
Então,
environmental
nesse momento,
samples at the
então,
landing
os
zone, the
os
LZ.
helicópteros 1
Everyone
e
has a
2
role to
então vão
play.
iniciar o
It's gonna be
processo de
simultaneous
resgate
action as they get that SRC recovered
da
and begin
cápsula
to do an environmental safety sweep,
Osiris, a
collecting
cápsula da
samples
sonda
along the way.
Osiris.
You see our mission ops team just next door.
E é claro que vamos acompanhar então todo este procedimento de resgate ao vivo.
I once again remind you that the sample canister itself is not actually going to be opened here at Dugway. The next phase of the operation is simply to get that SRC into the portable clean room that has been specifically set up for this recovery operation.
Então o pouso foi confirmado
The
às
team will
11
then
horas
remove the heat
e
shield
52
protecting the
minutos.
SRC and its precious cargo within the entire descent
No horário
through the entry descent
de
and landing.
Brasília.
Remove the back shell and then extract the sample canister within the tag sim that just a few years ago collected pieces from the asteroid Bennu. Today, the goal is to get the sample
Recovery
canister.
operations. Helicopters 3 and 4 are leaving rig for the landing ellipse.
You see some big smiles from the team there. They are getting those helicopters out to the landing ellipse now to begin those recovery operations. The first person to approach the SRC is Stu Wiley, our on-scene commander. You see the helicopter, the last of them, taking off from the Wig Mountain just at the edge of that landing ellipse. These helicopters will have a trip out to find that exact touchdown location of the SRC and begin those recovery operations. Stu Wiley, our on-scene commander, will be the first person to approach that SRC. He'll do an environmental safety sweep checking for unexploded ordnances. As he mentioned in his interview earlier with Sophia, he understands this range. He's worked here for a number of years. He will brief the team on any possible dangers that would be presented to them as they begin those recovery operations. And then a team member from Lockheed Martin will begin to take gas and thermal
Estamos aí
readings
então
once the area is
procurando
safe
o local
of
do
that
pouso.
SRC to determine whether or not it is at
Mais
safe
precisão aí
operational
para
levels
vocês,
for the
para
rest of the team to
ver se a
begin
gente
the
consegue
recovery
ver
operations.
mais de
As
perto.
I mentioned, this is going to be simultaneous action.
Aí a
The team has
cápsula
prepared.
Osiris.
They're all going to be wearing these bright white UV shirts, sample recovery shirts. And you'll see them walking out to that sample in just a few moments here once those helicopters land. A great view once again from our high altitude plane. You can see the parachute there next to our SRC. There is a possibility that there could be unexploded ordnances from that parachute. There is a mortar inside that is to fire, to disconnect the parachute from the main SRC, to help it come to a final rest. It's a bit challenging to see from this perspective, but there could be some potential roll marks or skid marks as that SRC came to rest on the rugged desert surface below. As I mentioned, we did have a bit of precipitation here the other day, so that should make for a nice soft surface for that SRC, so it probably had a nice clean landing there. The team will assess as they get out there and check exactly how our conditions are for the SRC and the surrounding area. You heard Stu mentioning the team might need to wear some boots. The operations could get a little bit slippery as they begin to recover that sample. And this is a pristine sample from the ancient solar system and could hold the clues to how everything around us came to be, from the formation of planets to the origins of life here on Earth. Needless to say, this is precious cargo, and the recovery team is fully aware of the gravity of the situation and the importance of what they're about to do today with these recovery operations. You can see it looks like our parachute has come to a stable rest. The winds were pretty low today, so it looks like it is not billowing at all. It is almost perfectly flat, at least from this perspective, on that desert terrain. And throughout all these operations, the crew member's safety is paramount. So you'll see the team probably huddle up a couple times as they begin these recovery operations to make sure that everything is safe and continues to be nominal as they make their initial safety sweep. All of this recovery should be a very quick process, usually. They've rehearsed for this again for months. They've been out here all summer really rehearsing for this moment. They did a drop test last month.
Então o pouso foi confirmado aí às 11h52 no deserto de Utah, nos Estados Unidos.
Sample carrying fixture.
Recovery operations, WB has located the parachute on the ground.
You just heard that confirmation from that high altitude plane locating that parachute on the ground. This location info will be relayed to our team members.
Nesse momento, confirmando então aí no visual, né, o paraquedas no solo.
We do have that confirmation from the high altitude plane, as you just heard. We're still working to get confirmation from our NASA helicopter. It is on its way out to that landing zone as we speak, so we should hopefully have that view up in just a few moments. You continue to see our team just next door, the mission operations team, all looking at that high altitude view.
Aguardando a equipe de terra então aí para o resgate.
Right in the middle there, just pointing around with the UV white shirt, is Rich Witherspoon from Lockheed Martin. He has been leading a lot of these operations for the past couple months. He's been preparing the team for this exact moment and really has been a great leader, helping us get ready for these recovery operations.
Lembrando que depois aí do resgate, né, a cápsula da sonda Osiris será levada então para a Sala Limpa, que fica localizada também aí neste mesmo deserto em Utah, nos Estados Unidos, né? Então aí onde será analisado e estudado as amostras capturadas, coletadas do asteroide Bennu.
Miles by 9 miles total, this landing ellipse, out in the Utah Test and Training Range here in Dugway, Utah. This is an enormous facility. As you heard earlier, it's about the size of Rhode Island, all in all, this whole facility. It's relatively flat, very smooth terrain, this desert surface. So it's perfect for bringing something back and having that nice, safe landing on the desert surface. Just a few years ago, the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft back in 2020 made its tag attempt, the touch and go attempt to actually collect the sample that has now landed in this desert. When it did that, it was only at the surface for just a couple seconds, descending at a speed about 11 centimeters per second, just a little bit faster than a baby that is crawling. It's a very slow pace, but they're able to successfully get that sample and bring it from the edge of our solar system back to us here at the Utah Test and Training Range. You can see our full screen view here of that high altitude view, looking at the parachute at rest on the surface of the desert.
De Brasília.
This is at the Utah Test and Training Range. It's a wide open expanse here, and the team has this positional info.
Estamos aí agora então acompanhando o procedimento de resgate da cápsula da sonda Osiris.
And what you'll see in a couple of seconds here, the recovery team, the recovery crews are responsible for securing the sample return capsule, the landing site around it, and helicoptering the SRC to a portable clean room that's located just next door here on the range. And just a little bit later on, it's going to be attached to a 100-foot long line beneath one of the helicopters, and they will actually be flown to the clean room. This was determined to be the best possible way to transport that SRC safely and efficiently, to get it on a nitrogen purge and maintain the pristine nature of the sample within. As I mentioned, this is an enormous ellipse, 37 by 9 miles. It's a large expanse to cover by car. It's a very bumpy ride up there as you kind of start to make your approach across this rugged terrain. With the helicopters, it will be approximately a 20-minute flight back with that SRC. They take it at a nice slow pace, effectively parading the SRC around, just giving it its last big moment as it is served its purpose officially at this point of getting that sample canister safely here to Earth. Once we actually land and begin those recovery operations, you'll see a lot of team members out beginning to take samples, both air and also soil samples from around the area. These are places of interest for the sample curation team that will actually open up the sample canister in the coming days down at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. They have a phenomenal sample curation facility there, and these samples from asteroid Bennu will join a historic collection of other asteroid materials, including samples from the Apollo mission, samples from both the Stardust and Genesis missions, as well as Antarctic meteorites that were collected by our scientists. In the coming days, we'll actually know exactly how much sample we got back from Bennu. The original mission requirement was 60 grams of pristine sample from the asteroid surface. Based on some very clever engineering, the team believes that they have potentially 250 grams, or 6 times that mission requirement, inside. And so we just heard that unofficial touchdown time was at 8:52 a.m. Mountain Time here at the Utah Test and Training Range in Dugway, Utah. If you're just joining us, you see that view right now from one of our high-altitude planes observing our touchdown location. On your screen, just above that crosshair is the orange creamsicle colored parachute that brought us the last part of our journey down to the surface of the
no
Earth.
horário de Brasília. Estamos aí com imagens do local do pouso da cápsula Osiris. Estamos aguardando então a equipe de resgate fazer então
You heard from Jim earlier that the main parachute is about 24 feet across. Fairly large parachute that helped us decelerate on our last leg of the journey. And so we just heard a confirmation actually that the main parachute deployed much higher than was originally anticipated. It was originally supposed to deploy at about 5,000 feet elevation, but it actually deployed at around 20,000 feet, so much higher up. So that would explain our kind of earlier touchdown time than expected here. Still has touchdown on the Utah Test and Training Range. Team members continue to fly out to this location aboard helicopters. As I mentioned, there are 4 recovery helicopters in total. The mission operations team is continuing to monitor the situation. They're the ones who are relaying us that info about that high parachute deployment, that 20,000 foot parachute deployment. They're going to be assessing the situation from their end here, relaying any possible info over to our recovery teams as they begin to make their trip out to our SRC. One of the first goals once the team gets out there is to safe and stow the parachute. Begin to mark places of interest, as I mentioned, for that curation team to begin sampling. This is all a very well-coordinated machine, very well-oiled machine that operates in tandem. They've rehearsed extensively for this moment. So we just heard from the team in that mission operations room that they have visual of the parachute, that orange parachute that you saw on your screen moments ago, but we do not yet have visual confirmation of the SRC itself. The team is continuing to survey the region, looking for that sample return capsule.
Recovery operations. Kilos 1 and 2 are in the area of the landing site and are in a search operation.
So you just heard that call out from Tim Prizer, who you see on your screen there from the mission operations room. He just announced that Helos 1 and 2 are now at that landing site. They're pointing out something on the screen. I see some smiles. It seems like we might have potentially some more information on that SRC in the coming moments.
Meio-dia e 8 minutos no horário de Brasília.
Looking for both that SRC
Estamos aí acompanhando agora o momento
up the region, looking at that parachute that was
do procedimento de resgate.
All of the ground supported vehicles have left rig and are in pursuit of the landing zone.
So some more team members
Estamos aí acompanhando então o momento do procedimento de resgate da cápsula da sonda Osiris, né, que teve o pouso realizado confirmado às 11 horas e 52 minutos no deserto de Utah, nos Estados Unidos. Retornando à Terra, então, aí após 7 anos
Once again, some
de
team members
missão,
pointing at items on the
recolhendo
screen here. We'll hopefully
amostras
get
do asteroide
confirmation in the coming
Bennu.
minutes of that SRC location. Tim Prizer pointing at the screen now, wondering if he has any more information for us on where that sample return capsule location would be. We do have visual confirmation of that parachute, as I mentioned. Rich Witherspoon radioing out to the team, and now we have a view from our helicopter of the landing location. You can see the sample return capsule dead center on your screen, that kind of dark gray black object right there. And then just to the right of it, a little bit below, is our parachute. It appears to be resting on the surface. We're getting a zoom in now from our NASA helicopter. And you can see now the SRC. At last, we have a visual of it on the surface of the Utah Test and Training Range.
Também em solo.
I'm sure that is a pleasant sight for the team to see.
Temos aí no visual
Recovery operations.
aí a cápsula Osiris.
I repeat, SRC has been located.
And we have visual on that SRC. It appears that the
A
parachute has
cápsula
also
Osiris
disconnected.
aí
It's a
no
little bit
visual
off
para
from
vocês,
that
mais de
SRC,
perto.
disconnecting from the back shell. The SRC appears to be resting on its nose, that heat shield that protected it the whole way down through that entry, descent, and landing.
Estamos aí então com
Lockheed is celebrating that moment. I'm sure they are breathing another sigh of
celebrando
relief
este
here.
momento
It's been a wild
histórico.
morning for everyone involved. They've been up since the crack of dawn, just a little bit further
Aí
north from
então
us in Watertown,
para NASA, né,
Colorado.
para todos
They gave
nós.
the go command to actually release that SRC that you
É onde
see on your
conseguimos
screen
então
right there
finalmente,
from the
né,
OSIRIS-REx
fazer
spacecraft about 4
coleta
hours ago.
de
It then
amostras
ventured
de
entirely on
asteroide
its
e
own,
retornar
and now
com
sits
elas
on its own for us here
para
in the
Terra.
Utah Test and Training Range. So now that we have visual, the teams should be able to begin the
Então
recovery
aí temos
operations
no
in
visual
just a
aí
few
para
moments.
vocês com mais de perto.
As I mentioned, that first
Aí
person on
a
scene will be the
cápsula
on-scene commander,
Osiris,
Stu Wiley.
cápsula da sonda
He'll be doing an
Osiris.
environmental sweep. We're getting a nice close-up view. You can see the parachute disconnected. You can see some of the wiring of it.
Imagens
There, just a
lindas aí
little
que
bit off
estamos
the edge of our SRC. The
presenciando
SRC looks
neste
quite charred
momento.
up from that entry in. That was expected as we heated up to temperatures over 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit upon entry into Earth's atmosphere. You can see a great visual of some of that rugged terrain out there. Just a sweeping expanse, very panoramic terrain at the Utah Test and Training Range. It's a great location for us to land this sample. The team looking a lot more relieved now that we actually have visual. And we should be able to begin those recovery operations shortly. Inside that sample return capsule are pieces of the asteroid Bennu. We'll be getting access to those samples in just a few days and actually seeing exactly what we got from the asteroid Regolith. This mission continues to amaze me and everyone involved here. The engineering is ingenious for this mission, getting us with a robotic explorer to the edge of the solar system, collecting that sample, safely stowing it, and then actually transporting it back here to Earth for us to open up and analyze. The surface today was probably a little bit soft, so it looks like it's resting a little bit far off the actual desert. It doesn't appear to have dug in too much with that nose cone from the heat shield. You are here with us as we witness this historic moment. It's the first time the United States has delivered samples from an asteroid to Earth. And these samples will be analyzed for decades to come in laboratories around the world. And there is landing of our first helicopter at the site. Appears to have a nice soft
Temos
landing. We're just probably a couple hundred feet.
helicóptero. É que vai fazer então o resgate aí da
So our first
cápsula
helicopter, you just heard
Osiris.
confirmation, and you can see visual confirmation of that landing. We're maybe about 100, 200 feet away, landing away from that sample. So a little bit of a hike for our team members to get out to that sample return capsule and begin our environmental safety sweep. As I mentioned, our on-scene commander, Stu Wiley, will be the first person of the team to actually approach this sample, check the area for any unexploded ordnances, UXOs, that could possibly be out there on the range. and then also make sure that that SRC is safe for our operations team to approach and begin recovery. You can see where that parachute disconnected from the top of that SRC. That is the back shield that you see right there at the very top with that little bit of white wiring still coming out of the top. Our SRC perfectly landed there on the Utah Test and Training Range. So what you're about to see happening next is the process of recovery operations. This is a key moment of today's events to actually get that SRC from out in the desert into our portable clean room here at Dugway. It is crucial that we maintain the pristine nature of this sample that we got back from asteroid Bennu. It could hold the clues to how everything around us came to be, from the formation of the planets to origins of life here, so the team understands just how crucial the contents of that SRC is, and they're going to work as efficiently and as safely as possible to get that SRC contained, wrapped up in thermal blanketing, placed in a sample carrying fixture, and then attached with long line to our first helicopter there. It'll then be transported the long journey back here, a much more relaxing flight, I'm sure, for our SRC, to our portable clean room at Dugway, at which point the team members will extract the back shell and remove the heat shield from the SRC. It's served its purpose. We're mainly now concerned with getting the contents within that sample canister containing pieces of the asteroid Regolith out of that SRC. We won't actually, as I mentioned, be opening that sample canister just yet here at Dugway. The team is simply focused on getting that SRC, or the sample canister rather, on a nitrogen purge, and this is to maintain that pristine nature and prevent any kind of contaminants from the atmosphere from getting into our sample within.
Recovery operations. Kilos 3 and 4 have been cleared to land at the recovery site.
And the rest of the team is closely behind, ready to land at the recovery site to begin operations. This will be simultaneous action that you'll see here once we have the clearance from Stu Wiley to begin our recovery operations. At least from this perspective, I'm not noticing really any drag marks or any kind of roll marks, but the team, once they approach, will mark any possible areas of interest where the SRC possibly came in contact with the rough desert terrain. All of these regions will be sampled by our recovery team and will be passed off to the sample curation team at the Johnson Space Center. As they begin to unload and actually open up the sample canister there, exploring the contents within and making sure that no possible contaminants from the surrounding landing location got into our sample. We're getting a wider view now. We should have the helicopters that have landed nearby coming into view, potentially. The team really taking extra precaution as they approach the SRC. As I mentioned, team member safety is paramount during these operations. There are possible potential
12 horas e 17 minutos pelo horário de Brasília. Estamos então acompanhando agora o procedimento de resgate da cápsula da sonda Osiris, né, que teve o pouso confirmado às 11 horas e 52 minutos no deserto de Utah, nos Estados Unidos. Lembrando que esta cápsula da sonda Osiris, ele vem aí trazendo as amostras lá do asteroide Bennu. Esta missão então teve duração aí de 7 anos.
We'll also be making sure that there is no live voltage present. And we see a view now from our high altitude plane that has visual of those helicopters landed nearby, just at the northern part of your screen. You can see one of them on screen now. The top of your screen there, it is centered up. There is our helicopter, and it appears that we have our on-scene commander potentially walking over.
WillPTV. Mais esse grande momento histórico.
This is once again our high altitude WB-57 shot of our helicopters landed at the LZ, our landing
zone. Se você
zone.
quiser acompanhar mais, não esqueça então de deixar o seu like, sua inscrição.
You can see some movement on the screen. It appears some team members might be approaching our SRC at this point to begin those recovery operations, the initial safety sweep.
E também seguir a gente nas nossas redes sociais, onde lá eu coloco todas as informações das próximas transmissões ao vivo.
We'll just be observing from this high altitude for the next coming minutes as the team
semanal
actually will be setting up a camera on the ground for us to observe the recovery operations close up. And a note from one of the team members about the SRC itself. So they have approximately 40 hours. That is the amount of time it would take for any air to get into the sample. As I mentioned before, that sample return capsule is a complex network of piping and tubing inside of it, sort of like a labyrinth-like design, and that is intentional to make it incredibly difficult for any possible contaminants from the atmosphere to get into our sample canister. So sort of like a nesting doll, if you will, where it has multiple layers of protection that keep that sample safe within. All of that protective layering, once we get that sample into the clean room, will be shed, and we'll be able to actually access that sample canister within. The main goal, as I said, for today is to get that sample canister on a nitrogen purge. That is to maintain its pristine nature. And we have visual once again from one of our helicopters here orbiting around the landing location. You can see our SRC at the bottom left of your screen, and its parachute that helped us get the last leg of the journey down. It deployed a little bit higher than we expected, 20,000 feet elevation. Original expectation was at about 5,000 feet. And this brought us down the last leg of the journey after a punishing initial entry into Earth's atmosphere over San Francisco, about 82 miles in altitude, to now resting on the rugged Utah Test and Training Range desert floor.
Recovery operations. Recovery team is in the vicinity, beginning their initial assessments.
So you just heard confirmation from Tim Preiser that the team is beginning to actually approach the SRC for that initial environmental and safety sweep. You'll soon see our on-scene commander, Oscar Stu Wiley, approaching that sample return capsule. As I mentioned before, he'll be checking for any possible unexploded ordnances. You can see our mission operations team. They've been overseeing all of this morning's events, and they're going to continue. There we go. On screen, you can see front and center there, Stu Wiley, our on-scene commander, and right behind him is Victoria team. They are both wearing personal protective equipment, gas masks. That's for their own safety as they approach, as there could be potential outgassing from that sample return capsule's batteries heating up during re-entry. You can see him scanning the region. He's checking for any possible unexploded ordnances, UXOs.
Recovery operations. Oscar is performing the unexploded ordnance survey.
And you just heard that he is in fact doing that survey right now. You can see him walking around the SRC. This is the first person to come in contact with this SRC since it was on the other side of the solar system. We had sent this on a long journey. It was OSIRIS-REx spacecraft. Finally delivering the sample, he is motioning over to Victoria team, who is surely going to approach and begin taking some gas and thermal readings. You can see her walking over. It must have given the clear for her to proceed. A little bit closer. Stu continues to pace around the surrounding area. All over here, the team will collect samples. He'll begin to place flags. You can see in his backpack, he's got a couple flags waving in the breeze. Those will be placed at areas of interest for our team members to sample once they arrive and begin those recovery operations. Victoria is now appearing to take out her thermal and gas reading devices. She's taking an initial thermal reading of that SRC as we speak, looking for it to be at an operational temperature of around 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Lockheed Martin Safety is performing hazardous environment assessments.
And you just heard that confirmation. So she is performing that hazardous environment assessment, checking the thermal temperature of that SRC, as well as taking any kind of gas readings to make sure that we are at safe operational levels. She is also leading over. This is Victoria team from Lockheed Martin. Stu continues to sweep the area around her for the safe operation of our recovery crew members.
Para quem está chegando agora na nossa transmissão, estamos aí acompanhando o momento do resgate da cápsula.
There are several nozzles
sonda Osiris, né, que teve o pouso
realizado, confirmado às 11 horas e
52 minutos
no
deserto de Utah, nos Estados Unidos.
Take some temperatures, and you can see off to the left of your screen, Stu Wiley is actually safing and stowing away that parachute that helped take us the last leg of the journey. It's great news that that disconnected from the SRC. that allowed our SRC to rest as it is now here on the surface of the
Sim,
Utah
nesse
Test and
momento
Training
então
Range.
foi confirmado
Appears
aí
with
que tá
minimal
tudo
dragging.
perfeito aí com a sonda.
Oscar
Cápsula.
is safing and storing the main parachute.
Então, nesse
So
momento
Stu is
a
gonna get that
equipe ali,
parachute
né, já
stowed,
recolhe
placed away.
o
As Victoria
paraquedas.
is front and center on your screen, beginning to take some of those gas readings to make sure that we are not outgassing any kind of noxious chemicals that could be present from that battery heating up within the SRC. And Stu is walking back to the team with that parachute. So the SRC battery is comprised of lithium disulfide, and as such, the possibility of toxic vapors exists if the battery packaging has
A
been
equipe
damaged
de
during entry
resgate
or landing.
já recolheu ali o
Discharging could
paraquedas da
cause
cápsula.
potential presence of hydrogen sulfide from those batteries heating up, or carbon monoxide. And so that is why Victoria initially had her gas mask on. It appears she has now actually taken it off, so it appears that the gas readings indicate nominal conditions.
Recovery operations, Lockheed Martin Safety has confirmed no hazardous gas.
And you just heard that confirmation, so the safety assessment is successful. Victoria has confirmed that with her gas readings and thermal measurements of the SRC. They'll then go back over, Stu and Victoria, for a team huddle to prepare the rest of the team to begin the recovery operations and actually get this SRC into our clean room here at Dugway and continue the operations. You can see the Lockheed Martin team in the bottom left of your screen just overjoyed with this moment. This is years of careful planning and preparation leading to this final phase of getting that sample back here to our clean rooms.
Agora estamos aí na fase final do resgate, né? E
I'm sure they've
para o
been holding
início
their
do
breath all morning,
transporte
so they're getting
até
closer
a
to
sala
finally being
limpa.
able to take another breath and relax as we actually will begin our recovery operations, a key part of today's events. And you might see Victoria approach over and over once again to that SRC to continue to take gas readings. At this point, she appears to be covering up the back shell of that SRC, placing a Teflon cover over. This is where the parachute actually deployed at the top of the SRC capsule, the sample return capsule rather. She'll also be checking for any possible live voltage, and we'll wrap Kapton tape around the two cut cable ends protruding from the back of the SRC where that parachute deployed. You can see her with that covering as we speak, placing it on the back shell. And she has successfully placed that shielding on the back, that Teflon cover. Stu walking around behind, checking the rest of the scene, walking back with the parachute that he now has safely stowed away. And you'll see Victoria opening up a couple gas valves on the SRC, taking those gas readings. She'll continue to do this throughout the whole process. She's also placing covers on those gas vents too to prevent any kind of contamination from atmospheric particles, particulates entering into that SRC. She's photographing the scene as well too. This is to keep careful note of exactly the procedures that she's going through for her team. So the recovery operations will be getting underway shortly now that the team has conducted their initial environmental and safety sweep. Everything appears to be nominal, which is fantastic. We do, in fact, have that SRC on the ground. The rest of the team will be approaching shortly. But for now, back to you, Lauren and Jim.
Wow. Thank you, James.
Oh.
Can you believe it?
OMG. Touchdown for science. What a great day.
For the folks at home, this is a huge deal, and they did it.
For the first time in history, we brought goodies back home from this kind of object in the history of humanity. So this is big.
This is so huge, and we're all breathing a big sigh of relief. Obviously, we're not completely out of the woods here, and we'll be monitoring what's going on and keeping you abreast of everything that's happening.
O pouso com sucesso e o resgate também da
A great job by the Lockheed Martin team saving that
da
craft.
sonda Osiris, né, que voltou à Terra após 7 anos em missão até o asteroide Bennu.
All right. All right, so we're
That's
making
good.
progress.
We're making
Very good.
progress.
All right, so while the capsule was making its way to the ground, mission teams in the Colorado control room and the mission ops area here in Utah were, of course, riveted by the live images. These teams have watched and nurtured this mission for more than 7 years of spaceflight, and even longer in terms of construction and design. Gosh,
wow,
amazing.
11 years since it was selected to fly. What a job, folks.
Just fantastic. A lot's happened in 7 years. All right, so let's get an update from where the action started this morning. Sophia, tell us everything.
Okay, firstly, I want to say we are so grateful that the
Eu vou fazer
capsule
pequeno intervalo,
is on the
né?
ground
Vocês fiquem acompanhando aí ao vivo aí na transmissão do nosso momento histórico, então, do pouso da cápsula da sonda Osiris, né? Eu volto já já.
So, during that time, listening to James's commentary of the capsule coming through our atmosphere, we're all standing on the edge here, looking and scanning through the sky. But just to give you some context again of where I am, I'm about 4,000 feet up, overlooking a vast, ancient seabed. So the mountains that are peppering along the edges over here, they are very muted colors. It's a beautiful pastel out there. And as we're looking over through the sky, it's hard to see because there's alkaline dust from this ancient seabed. And considering that the capsule has landed on the edge of the landing zone, even though I'm as close as I could possibly be, I didn't see anything over here. I will say I'm a little disappointed, but grateful that that capsule is in the most capable hands it can be, and that is the most important thing out here. So while I didn't see with my eyes myself, we saw it on the screen, and it's still a great day. So back to you, Lauren.
Wow, thank you, Sophia. And thankfully, we got that great image from the NASA helicopter. Wow. Just well done to that team. Thank you for that. So while we're keeping an eye on ongoing operations to prep for the SRC transport, we have a special message from someone who keeps a close eye on the entire manifest of the space agency's travels around the solar system.
Hey, everybody. Congratulations to the OSIRIS-REx team. You did it. You designed it, you built it, and you carried out the first mission to collect a sample from an asteroid. And after a 2-year journey, it has touched down at the Utah desert. It brought something extraordinary, the largest asteroid sample ever received on Earth. It's going to help scientists investigate planet formation. It's going to improve our understanding of asteroids that could possibly impact the Earth, and it'll deepen our understanding of the origin of our solar system and its formation. This mission proves that NASA does big things, things that inspire us, things that unite us.
Recovery operations, we can confirm that the SRC is not breached.
Beyond our reach. And the mission continues with incredible science and analysis going to come. But I want to thank you all for everybody that made this OSIRIS-REx mission possible. It wasn't mission impossible. It was the impossible became possible. Thank you all.
And just as a reminder, we are keeping those operational milestones going, so you will continue to hear that throughout the broadcast. Thankfully, the SRC was not breached. Fantastic, fantastic news. All right, as anyone who pays just even a little attention to modern spaceflight knows, there has been more activity above the planet in recent years than ever before in human history. There are probes like OSIRIS-REx moving around the solar system, observatories looking out into deep space, and satellites closely examining the health and future of our own planet. There are also human explorers, and we are so fortunate to have 2 of them with us here today. Joining us now are NASA's astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, scheduled to launch on Boeing's crew flight test aboard Starliner to the International Space Station. Butch and Suni, thank you for joining us.
We are honored to be here.
Super exciting day.
What a thrill.
Congratulations.
Absolutely historic. How are you feeling?
pretty amazing.
It was like, wow, this is what, you know, dreams and imagination is fueled with. This is just amazing. So, you know, it can go from the movies, but this is reality, and we're doing things that people couldn't even believe could happen. It's amazing. Yeah.
And also, I mean, we both landed under capsule, under parachutes. There's not much better feeling when that parachute opens, I'm telling you. And it was maybe not equal, but pretty close to exciting and intense, and that parachute opened, oh, it was thrilling. Absolutely thrilling. Yep. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, that is fantastic. One of the things that I think will be really interesting is this, of course, this site is being considered as one of the candidates for the Boeing Starliner crew flight.
Right, and that's actually why we're here. It just worked out in our timing for our training and as we're working on Starliner, that we could come and actually view one of our prime landing sites, which is here at Dugway. And so that's actually what brought us to the area, so we could be here and sharing the experience with you today.
And we see this has gone so well, we are ready to land.
Recovery operations.
That's the place that our flight
recovery team is performing their safety.
This is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful day this morning. You know, no wind. I think the capsule just came right down under the chute, and hopefully we'll have a nice soft ride just like this capsule too.
Absolutely. And we just got a call out that the recovery team is performing their safety operations. Everything nominal.
So you guys will be coming back, and maybe someday with samples yourself, brought back by humans.
Indeed.
What do you think about that?
Again, we're in that era of going beyond low Earth orbit now with humans, you know, headed back to Moon, and potentially one day to Mars with the Artemis program. And it is a thrilling time, as you mentioned earlier. So much taking place within the solar system, the near solar system now, and it's fascinating. Great time to be in human space.
Awesome.
I think I'd be a little bit nervous to go to an asteroid, so, I'm super glad the spacecraft did it, and we'll set the pace and show us how to do it. But I think maybe you'll practice a little bit more before we go, because it's a dangerous environment learning about it.
So much Sunny and Butch, thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully you'll stick around for more of the show.
Yeah,
all right, congratulations,
thank you guys.
Everybody out there.
Really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Good luck with your flight.
If you've just joined us, this is special live coverage of NASA's OSIRIS-REx asteroid sample return mission. You might be thinking, this doesn't look like a typical NASA facility. And it's not. In fact, it's because of the extraordinary capabilities that we find here, that we find ourselves in the Utah desert in the first place. We're coming to you live from Army's Dugway Proving Ground. We've got a video postcard to share that will give you a better sense of the glorious desert environment all around us. Take a look. The spaces here are vast, rugged, beautiful. I mean, you got to see a little bit from the NASA helicopter, but that was a close-up and personal look.
And look at this. We're in this place that almost looks like
E aí,
Mars,
nesse momento,
but
está
on Earth,
meio-dia e 37 no horário de Brasília. Aí temos imagens de fotografia de mais de perto, então, da cápsula da sonda Osiris, né, que teve então seu pouso confirmado aí às 11 horas e 52 minutos no horário de Brasília, no deserto de Utah, nos Estados Unidos.
Landing, you know, as opposed to an ocean landing.
Então, lembrando que esta cápsula da sonda Osiris, né, então tem amostras, né, que foram coletadas lá no asteroide Bennu.
Absolutely wonderful waters out. This is the best place to bring home this kind of capsule. And look at her. She landed perfectly. Looks like a top sitting there.
Absolutely gorgeous. Well, this isn't the first time that NASA has visited Dugway, and it certainly won't be the last. Take a look.
like it was on you.
Right on the boundary, though. Yeah. So close.
So we have a big collaboration at NASA with members of from the Army and Navy, from the military services that have given us the opportunity to go to these great places in space ourselves as people. And can you tell us a little bit about the training and other fantastic things you do prepares these people to be crew for flight into space?
Yeah, so if you look at it, the Army is the greatest leadership lab in the world, the types of problems that we have to solve on a day-to-day basis. And we have some of the best workforce that is available. So here at Dugway Proving Ground, we do chemical and biological defense testing. We're part of the Army's Test and Evaluation Command. And so anytime a piece of equipment is going to go into a service member's hands, it's tested by one of our amazing members of our workforce. But we also do training here. And so it gives a chance for folks to come and do things in a realistic environment. And that's really allows them to hone those problem-solving skills.
Right, so that's why the crews are so good who come from the Army and the Navy and the Air Force.
Yeah, we'd like to point out it was an Army astronaut this week who went over who set the record.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. Well, we couldn't let you go without wishing you a very happy birthday today. Happy birthday. Today is your birthday, and you got a piece of the solar system. How about that?
I don't think I could have gotten a better present from NASA.
No. And this is the rarest stuff we've ever had on Earth.
It is. And I mean, when we're talking about the origins of life, and that's one of the I have the coolest job in the world. A couple months ago, I was here and out on the Utah Test and Training Range. We got to go out to an archaeological site and see 12,000-year-old footprints. And now we're going to get to see the material from the origins of the solar system. I think we've set the bar pretty high, really, and so my kids think I'm cool today. I don't know what we're going to do to top this.
Well, we think you're pretty cool,
yes.
too.
Yes, sir.
And thank you so much for joining us. We've really loved having you.
Thank you so much.
We have a saying at NASA that the only way to reach the stars is if we all go together. The OSIRIS-REx team represents pros at the top of their game, but future explorers are just now finding inspiration in today's events. Here at the Dugway Proving Ground, students attending public school can literally say that a sample of an asteroid landed in their backyard. We visited the school to hear their thoughts about the mission and how their teachers hope it might influence their dreams of future exploration. Let's go, OSIRIS-REx. I love that energy.
I do too.
All right, Jim, you know, you're a planetary geologist. How did you get into this? I mean, these kids are just at the beginning of thinking about what their career might be. I mean, how did you do this?
I think all kids are intrinsically curious at birth. My mother said I was interested in space at birth. Don't know how she knew. But in any event, I think we all are, and we follow different pathways. If you see things as beautiful as we have here in Dugway, here in Utah, you'll be inspired by the rocks and the things in space, like these special samples we've brought back, which are unique being from Bennu, but not unique in the kinds of materials we have here on Earth, thanks to other asteroid returns. These are the biggest we've ever done, and so we're excited. But I think curiosity is in all of us, and so that's really what it's all about. And these kids are ready to pick up on this energy.
Yeah, we need that future generation. All right, let's get an update from James. James, go ahead.
Yeah, Lawrence, so the mission operations team has confirmed that we are able to begin those recovery operations. You've been seeing on your screen in the bottom corner for the past couple minutes, team members beginning to head out and put flags of areas of interest where we'll want to sample for our sample curation team. And also just a note on our parachute deployment, the parachute was set to deploy based on capsule deceleration, and we actually reached that threshold earlier than predicted, and the parachute deployed appropriately. So everything was right there, working perfectly fine. We got that SRC, as you can see, successfully on the ground. It is perfectly resting on the desert terrain, and you see 3 of our team members around that capsule beginning to place flags to begin to collect samples. The team members here you see on screen are Scott Sanford, Dante Loretto, the principal investigator at the right of your screen there, and Francis McCubbin. These are key curation team members who will help us actually get a lot of these samples of the region there, environmental samples, collected and ready to be passed along to our team at the Johnson Space Center for curation efforts there. This is, again, a very key part of the mission. We want to make sure that there is no contamination of that sample return capsule from any possible atmospheric or environmental conditions out at that landing zone, that landing site. And so we're going to continue these operations and actually begin to scoop up some of the samples. And this will work like a well-oiled machine you'll see in a few moments. Dante, who was just on your screen a few moments ago, is wearing an armband, much like a football quarterback, if you will. He'll actually be kind of reading off the play calls as they go out and go step by step to actually scoop into the terrain about an inch down into the surface of the desert, scooping out a little bit of the rock and dust that's there, placing it into a bag, photographing the whole process along the way, making note of exactly where they collected that sample from. All this information will then be passed along to our sample curation team at the Johnson Space Center as they begin to actually open up that sample canister and see exactly what we got within. This has been a long journey. It's been an incredible morning to witness this live. Just such a stunning feat of engineering to get that capsule back here to Earth with samples of the asteroid Bennu. This is why we do science, right? To get these kinds of samples, every piece of dust and grain inside that sample return capsule is a PhD thesis waiting to be written. It's a new discovery waiting for us about the origins of the solar system and our place in it. And the vast majority of that sample, more than 70% of that sample, is actually going to be stowed away for future analysis. We did the same exact thing with the Apollo missions when we brought back rocks from the moon. A large quantity of those rocks and dust from the moon our astronauts brought back were stowed away for future generations with the expectation that our technology would continue to improve and improve and improve, and then we'd be able to ask questions that we couldn't even begin to fathom. And now the same thing we'll be doing with the OSIRIS-REx samples that we brought back from the asteroid Bennu. A lot of these will be opened up 50 years from now with scientists who are yet to be born asking questions we can't even begin to imagine. So our team is just huddling off screen now, and our recovery operations will begin. You'll see a number of team members come out here. They'll be carrying with them a carrying fixture. It's a large metal fixture that has been perfectly designed to have our SRC resting within. They'll be bringing out a lot of thermal blanketing that will be used to protect our SRC during its flight back to the clean room here. Again, we want to make sure that that SRC is safe from any kind of possible contamination from the atmosphere. So they're going to do an excellent job of actually wrapping this SRC up and getting it prepared to transport to our portable clean room. That actual operation of getting that SRC bagged and stowed and ready to go on our long line operations for the helicopter will be a rather quick operation. As you see some team members from Lockheed Martin, their role is largely finished for today. They were operating a lot of the flight dynamics of that SRC, getting it to the ground, and now they can really just take a step back and relax, catch their breath after all the chaos of the morning. Very exciting moment for all of them, I'm sure, to actually see their creation sitting on the surface of the Utah Test and Training Range. Just massive, massive sigh of relief. So as I mentioned, that actual recovery of the SRC will be a relatively quick process, but a number of our team members, including Dante Loretto, our principal investigator, might remain out on the site where you see that SRC on your screen now. They're going to continue to collect samples. You can see a number of flags placed around. There's some pink flags placed there. There are 4 placed in front of the SRC where the team believes the SRC is potentially dragged along the surface as it came to a rest on the Utah Test and Training Range desert surface. On the back side of that SRC are 4 additional pink flags, and those are our regions for control sampling. We'll actually go and sample all of these regions and compare back to areas we believe the SRC did not contact. You can see additionally, it's a little bit hard to make out with the bright color of the desert, but there are a couple white flags present at the SRC. And these are areas of operation for the team to actually be able to walk up to the SRC with the carrying fixture, place it next to the SRC, and actually begin to bag and stow our sample return capsule for transport to the Dugway clean room. So it's been already just an incredible morning. We're now about an hour past landing of the OSIRIS-REx sample return capsule. Just a few years ago, our spacecraft, our intrepid robotic explorer, was 200 million miles away from us on the other side of the solar system. It successfully captured a sample of the asteroid Bennu, stowed it away, and transported it on the long 1.2 billion mile journey to us here on Earth. We experienced an incredible entry, descent, and landing as this team that you see on screen here, the Lockheed Martin team, a couple hours before our broadcast started, gave the green light, the go command to actually release the sample return capsule containing pieces of the asteroid Bennu. It then floated on its own through the vacuum of space for about 4 hours before coming in contact with the atmosphere over the San Francisco, California Bay Area, traveling at just over 27,000 miles per hour and heating up to over 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit as it encountered the incredible drag forces our Earth's atmosphere presents. We then slowed down under our drogue parachute initially, which kept us stable during our descent down to the Utah Test and Training Range. And then ultimately, at about 20,000 feet off the deck, we gave the command to deploy our main parachute, that orange creamsicle color parachute that has now actually already been stowed away by our team members here at the Utah Test and Training Range. It's been a really wild journey. Very excited to have our SRC on the ground. And you see a view of our mission operations team observing our recovery team that is already out on the landing zone, taking samples, beginning to actually prepare the thermal blanketing, the protective layers for our SRC, and you can see we're documenting this whole process along the way. And so these operations will continue for the next couple minutes, or as long as it takes to safely store that SRC and prepare it for long line operations to get it to the clean room here. We'll continue to take samples, and I will continue to monitor the situation as we proceed here. But for now, back to you, Lauren and Jim.
12 horas e 52 minutos no horário de Brasília, né? 1 hora já após o pouso, né? Estamos ainda continuando trabalhando então no resgate da cápsula Osiris aí no deserto de Utah, nos Estados Unidos. Então, nesse momento, as equipes carregam a cápsula. Então, nesse momento, a equipe carrega a cápsula e vão agora fazer a sua... Vão carregar, então, agora a cápsula para o helicóptero para ser levado, então, para a sala limpa. Então, após 1 hora do seu pouso, nesse momento as equipes resgatam finalmente aí a cápsula Osiris. Fazem aí o sacamento da cápsula.
Well, in this case, based on a classification of what we call the planetary protection,
estamos vendo, acompanhando aí o sacamento então da cápsula Osiris.
Came back to Houston again very carefully. In this case, we understand the asteroid, the environment. We measured it with OSIRIS-REx, other asteroid samples from our colleagues in Japan, and so we don't have to quarantine them the same way. We do have to protect them, though, from contamination, and there's all kinds of systems in place by our team to allow us to understand the level of contamination. So what we study in science is the pristine asteroid.
That was a great question.
Excellent question.
Excellent question.
Recovery operations. SRC is bagged and secured in the handling fixture.
A cápsula então está segura
e
guardada então dentro da sacola.
Wow, fantastic news. Missions like OSIRIS-REx transform scientific pursuits into engineering challenges. Smart, curious people with pursue answers with creative verve and perseverance. This year, Hollywood also had a story about a crowd of people situated around the touchdown point of an asteroid. And, well, we couldn't help ourselves. We asked the cast of Asteroid City to say a few words. All right. Well, it looks like we are having some technical difficulties, but that's okay. We'll definitely get you that video. It's a really fun one.
It is.
Scarlett Johansson, I mean, A-lister,
Yes.
Can you imagine? All right. So let's get an update from our field correspondent, Sophia. Sophia, do you have an update for us?
Okay, Lauren, turns out the landing site really is just over my shoulder. It is just so hard to see through the alkaline particulate out here on the landing zone. But you know what? This is all in great hands, and we are just very thrilled that the capsule is doing well today. So I'm able to see one of the helicopters just circling over there. But for those of you who have just tuned in, I am on Wig Mountain, which is overlooking the ellipse, which is the vast landing zone. And earlier today, the helicopters, which were shuttling our teams of experts and our scientists, departed from here via helicopter once they found out exactly where the capsule landed, and now they're off on their recovery process and are doing what they do, which has been a carefully rehearsed process. So, Lauren, I'm going to send it back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sophia. All right. Well, let's get back to that awesome video of Asteroid City. You don't want to miss this. Take a look.
Uma hora pelo horário de Brasília, estamos então acompanhando ao vivo ainda a missão do retorno então e o pouso da cápsula Osiris, né, que já temos então confirmando aí o seu resgate sendo concluído com sucesso. Todo o procedimento então de pouso e resgate da sonda Osiris, da cápsula da sonda Osiris, né? Você acompanhou ao vivo. Lembrando que o pouso então foi confirmado às 11 horas e 52 minutos no horário de Brasília, no deserto de Utah, nos Estados Unidos. Então a sonda traz de volta, traz aí para a Terra, né? Amostras. Aí então temos aí amostras então trazidas do asteroide Bennu, aí trazidas então pela sonda Osiris. Então lembrando que esta missão teve duração aí de 7 anos, com o lançamento realizado pelo veículo Atlas V em 2016 e chegou no asteroide Bennu em outubro de 2020. Então ele fez coleta de amostras para a gente entender melhor como faz aí, estudar melhor como foi então, aí, a formação do nosso sistema solar, né, e dos planetas, e ver também se encontra algum material orgânico, né, dentro desse asteroide. Então este momento histórico, né, aí, então do nosso planeta, da NASA, né?
Into account everything about the mission, from the science ideas to the launch to
lembrando que no dia 14 de outubro teremos eclipse solar anular aqui no Brasil. Será visível então no Brasil, principalmente o completo, né, o total eclipse anular, né, de fato então poderá ser visível na faixa da região Nordeste e em algumas localidades o parcial. É o anular parcial. Dia 14 de outubro. E também no dia 25, na madrugada do dia 25, às 4 horas, a partir das 4h10 da manhã, no horário de Brasília, vamos acompanhar aí a missão, mais uma missão Starlink, será lançado então na base de Vandenberg, na Califórnia. E no dia 27 vamos então acompanhar o retorno da tripulação da MS-23, da Soyuz MS-23, na Estação Espacial Internacional. Vamos acompanhar então o retorno e o pouso da cápsula Soyuz.
Success. It should go without saying, everyone here is mission critical, from bus drivers to planetary geologists, helicopter pilots to logistics experts. With all of the natural excitement about the mission itself, let's stop for a few minutes and highlight those in OSIRIS-REx who made it.
Eu vou estar aqui encerrando esta transmissão aqui em nosso canal WillPTV. Aí onde então transmitimos ao vivo aqui o retorno então da cápsula da sonda Osiris. Então quero aí agradecer aos donates, os likes, as inscrições e a audiência de vocês. Lembrando que vocês podem sempre acompanhar todas as nossas transmissões ao vivo aqui no nosso canal. E também seguir a gente nas nossas redes sociais. Então marquem aí na história, né? Marque então aí no seu livro de história, aí, né, no dia 24 de setembro de 2023. Histórico aí do retorno com amostras de um asteroide.
Waiting for the past couple of minutes here, the team has actually successfully bagged and prepared the sample return capsule for the long line operations. You can see on your screen right now, the SRC is bagged within thermal blanketing.
Então aí temos a cápsula Osiris, toda ela já preparada para o transporte, né, após o seu encapsulamento aí, né, então já temos ela toda preparada para ser transportada então, para a sala limpa.
You'll notice a couple of tape markers on that SRC as well, the thermal blanketing there. Those are pieces of Kapton tape marking exactly where vents are on that SRC for team members here at the clean room, who will once again do gas and thermal readings once it arrives at the clean room. Just once again making sure team members are safe and secure as we begin to continue those recovery operations, getting the SRC into the clean room. And this is one of the last phases of the process of getting our SRC back and then opening it up, finally seeing that sample canister within, and preparing that for shipment tomorrow on a C-17 cargo plane to the Johnson Space Center's sample curation facility. And this was a very quick process. I mean, if you're keeping time at home, this was only maybe about 20 minutes that they took to get out there once they arrived and wrap everything up really quickly once they were given the official confirmation to approach, get everything stored, prepared for those long line operations. This really has become second nature for these team members. They really are able to bag and prepare this SRC, and you'll see still quite a few flags around that area there. Once this SRC is flown away from the region, the landing zone, team members from the curation team will remain on site and continue to take samples of that surrounding area. They also have set up off screen here, you can't see it, but there is a air reading that they're going to be taking actual air samples of the area, atmospheric samples. All of this will be cross-correlated with samples that we actually get back from the asteroid Bennu to make sure that nothing from Earth here at the LZ or beyond got into that sample return capsule. And you can see some of those team members who are going to be taking those samples once again approaching the location. Dante Loretta is front and center with them. He has that armband on, and on his left arm you can see it there as he's carrying his bucket that has all of his tools that he needs to begin collecting these samples. It's a very tight procedure that they have to go through to make sure that they are properly taking these samples. You can see they are photographing the area first, documenting exactly where they are collecting the sample from. They then have a small metal scooper that they'll use to actually dig into the desert surface. It's a bit of a soft surface out there today. As I mentioned, we did have some rain that softened it up, so it should be easy to dig in there, grab a bit of sample, and then they will bag that sample, seal it up, and then send that off to the sample curation team at the Johnson Space Center. Admiring the region as well. It's a beautiful, clear morning there today. We've been rehearsing in a variety of different conditions, including in the middle of the summer where temperatures were over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, much cooler conditions. You can see our team members wearing their UV shirts today. A much chillier morning for them as they are doing these recovery operations. And this process does take some time as they go through and collect these samples. They want to make sure that they are accurately documenting exactly what's present at this landing zone for the team members who are at the sample curation facility of the Johnson Space Center. We're getting a great aerial view from our NASA helicopter. They've been doing a phenomenal job all morning tracking the action for us, and we don't give them enough credit. We've been training, obviously, all of the science and
recovery operations. The recovery team is moving the SRC to Helicopter 1 and preparing for long line operations.
And there we have it. We are going to be moving towards those long line operations. The rest of the team members approaching that SRC that has been successfully bagged and prepared to be loaded into the helicopter's long line. This will be the last time the SRC takes flight. We had a wild flight this morning. You can see two team members lifting that SRC up. It's about 120 pounds total once you have the SRC and the carrying fixture there together. They're going to be walking this over, preparing it for cargo netting, and getting that attached to the long line for helicopter operations. And as I mentioned, this is the last time the SRC is going to be taking flight. It had a harrowing journey this morning coming through the Earth's atmosphere at over 27,000 miles per hour. It is now being carried carefully by a couple team members here. So quite a deceleration from that initial entry, and really just a wonderful final journey for our sample before it is opened up at the clean room and prepared to be shipped to the curation facility at Johnson.
Nesse momento, a cápsula do Osiris, né?
As I mentioned, this view is coming from one of our NASA helicopters. Just like the science and engineering teams have been preparing for this key moment, our NASA helicopter pilots have also been preparing to cover today's events. They're typically down at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, capturing launch coverage from Cape Canaveral. But this past couple months, they've been out here with us at the Utah Test and Training Range, preparing to document today's events, getting incredible footage for us all along the way. You can see those team members have a bit of a hike to carry it to where it is safe operationally. And you can see we have the cargo netting already laid out there. Our representative from Dugway, Jasmine Nakayama, is prepared with that cargo netting. She's going to help the team here get that SRC that has already been successfully bagged up with thermal wrapping into that cargo netting, and you can see the helicopter already there staged and ready to lift off. The helicopter pilot has actually removed one of the doors on that helicopter so he can lean out and look down as he carefully lifts the SRC off the terrain. We want to make sure that this is a careful, slow process as we safely transport this SRC to the Dugway clean room. And you can see Jasmine is picking up pieces of the cargo netting and beginning to wrap the SRC that has been placed already on the carrying fixture with the thermal blanketing. Team members observing their handiwork of getting that carefully wrapped up. We'll then actually unwrap all of that thermal blanketing once we actually get it into the clean room here.
Recovery operations, SRCs in the cargo net, and all the gear has been stowed in the helicopter.
Great news, everything sounds nominal for helicopter operations, and in just a few moments we should have liftoff of that SRC aboard the helicopter with that long line attached. Team members clearing the area to make sure that we can safely take off with our helicopter. These helicopter pilots have also been training in tandem with all the team members the past couple months leading up to this key moment. We've practiced these long line operations, we've practiced the flight back to the Dugway clean room, but obviously nothing compares to the real deal. I'm sure they are feeling the excitement, they are feeling the nerves as they know how precious their cargo is this morning that they're transporting to the Dugway clean room. See, Jasmine is donning a helmet, and the rotors are kicking on for our helicopter. Kicking off some dust as they get up to speed there. It is a dusty morning out on the desert.
Então, nesse momento aí, vemos aí a ignição do helicóptero, às 1h12 da tarde, no horário de Brasília.
Slow, deliberate operation. We want to make sure that sample return
Se preparando
capsule
então aí
is
para
safe
trazer a
as we are lifting it
cápsula
off.
do Osiris aí
The piece that
até
Jasmine
a
is
sala
holding in her
limpa.
hand right now is that gimbal stabilizer for the cargo netting. That will ensure that the SRC is not wildly spinning as we get to altitude with our helicopter. These helicopters can get upwards of over 100 miles an hour speed, but we're going to go nowhere close to that today. We're going to be taking this at a slow pace, making sure that SRC can get back safely and securely to our Dugway clean room. You can see one of our NASA photographers, Keegan Barber, taking some great pictures. I'm sure those will be phenomenal views of the operations that are going on just across the way from us at the Utah Test and Training Range. As soon as these rotors get up to speed, our helicopter will get off the ground. The terrain is a little bit soft today. Team members were out here yesterday testing out the grounds and had practiced actually landing with some of the helicopters. Those skids on the helicopters got about an inch into the wet terrain. It's presumably dried a lot more today. It's the sunny, clear skies have probably helped us out a bit, so this should be an easy liftoff for this helicopter to get into the air and help transport that SRC to the clean room. Off-screen, team members are presumably continuing to collect samples of the surrounding area, both environmental, soil samples, atmospheric samples. We'll be continuing to do those operations even as we bring this SRC to our clean room. Just a great view here from our NASA helicopter. And in just a few moments, we should have a stunning view of our SRC lifting off the ground. No part of this SRC comes in contact with the helicopter. As I said, it's been safely stored in that thermal blanketing. There's multiple layers of that blanketing, as well as a tarp being placed over it. Now, it is also in that cargo netting, thanks to our Dugway representative, Jasmine Nakayama. She's then attached this whole contraption to a long line that will dangle about 100 feet below the helicopter. And I can see a lot of dust kicking up now. The engine's really revving up on that helicopter, and it is off the desert terrain in the air with the SRC in tow.
Recovery operations. Helicopter 1 is cleared to depart the recovery site with the SRC.
And we have clearance to depart the recovery site. This is a key moment of those recovery operations. We're already getting that SRC out of the landing zone and on its way to the Dugway clean room.
Nesse momento, 11 horas e 13 horas e 15 minutos no horário de Brasília. Então, o helicóptero, nesse momento, leva em um guincho, né, a cápsula da sonda Osiris,
as I mentioned, a much more
que está aí presa, então, aí nesta corda. Então, nesse momento aí, o helicóptero leva a cápsula da sonda Osiris até a sala limpa.
At the Dugway clean room, I see team members waving goodbye.
Vendo então todo o procedimento aí de resgate.
And look at that view. This is a stunning view of our helicopter. This is a long journey ahead. As I mentioned, probably about 20 minutes of total flight time. We may lose signal as we head out there a bit, but for now we have a stunning view of our helicopter carrying the SRC below. And you can see that stabilizer is helping to keep that SRC nice and stable below. We'll continue to track this transport to the clean room, but for now, back to you, Lauren and Jim.
O helicóptero transporta a sonda
wow, check out that epic shot. Check it out.
What a ride.
Wow. All right. Thanks, James. The science community has serious questions about asteroids like Bennu for a long time. What are they made of? Do they hold any clues about the origins of life on Earth or elsewhere? And what can they tell us about our past and potentially our future?
It's all about chemistry, Lauren.
It absolutely is. Well, fortunately, Jim, we are joined by somebody who specializes in the kind of chemistry that you'd be hard-pressed to find outside of NASA. Jason Dworkin is the OSIRIS-REx
Estamos ainda continuando acompanhando todo o procedimento de resgate.
Welcome, Jason. Thanks for coming.
Então, na cápsula da sonda Osiris.
You must be so
fantastic, yes. Relieved, invigorated,
teve o procedimento de resgate concluído e agora temos o transporte aí do helicóptero sendo levado então até a base da NASA em Utah. Então para a sala limpa.
You know, we've continued to say this is such an important sample from an asteroid. Why is it scientifically significant?
So Bennu is an ancient piece of the early solar system, a leftover component. It's a fragment of what happens when you make planets, and this fragment of rock contains the ingredients that happen when you make planets, that happens when you make life. So by studying a sample from
Então, com esse procedimento de resgate concluído, né? Então, vou estar aqui já agora de fato, sim. Deixa eu ver como é que está os outros canais.
Sometimes bigger than a launch pad, let alone the rock and the spacecraft. So we can interrogate the compounds, the minerals in fine detail to understand how they interact with each other and how they could have led
então, com esse procedimento de resgate aí concluído, né? Aí, já com o helicóptero levando a sonda Osiris. Então, de fato,
we're going to save some of this sample so that future generations, future techniques, future people not even born can
eu quero agradecer então a todos mais uma vez então pela audiência, pela paciência. Então aí, concluindo mais esta transmissão em nosso canal WillPTV. Então, para mais informações, basta seguir a gente nas nossas redes sociais, no X, mesmo canal, mesmo nome, e no Twitter também, no Instagram, o mesmo nome do canal. Lembrando que no dia 25 vamos ter a emissão lá no Cabo Canaveral, na base de Vandenberg, na Califórnia, para a missão Starlink. Tá? Então aí estamos encerrando mais uma transmissão. Quero agradecer então todo mundo. Obrigado mais uma vez. Então, por hora só. Lembrando que a gente pode voltar aí ao vivo a qualquer momento, trazendo para vocês mais uma missão aí, né, ao redor do mundo. É 1h20 no horário de Brasília. Então, por hora só e teremos em breve. Fui.
Let's learn more about why. OSIRIS-REx was designed to retrieve a sample from asteroid Bennu and return it to Earth. So, of the more than 1 million known asteroids in our solar system, why Bennu? First, as a near-Earth asteroid, Bennu is easy to reach. It takes about 14 months to orbit the Sun and comes close to Earth once every 6 years. To get there, OSIRIS-REx was launched in 2016 on an Atlas V rocket with a single booster and a center